On the outskirts of the capital of the Empire of Atlan was the house of Baron Pales. It was not big, but it was enough in this place, near the window on the second floor. There is a lady she sees, how ladies get out of the carriage in the courtyard. The maid knocked on the door of the room, asking if she could come in. Apparently the beauty had guests who she could not leave. The girl looked worried, but the heroine assured her that everything was fine. The woman comes down. She knew it would end like this, but she wasn't going to do anything about it. The blue-eyed, bright-haired woman smiles a nasty smile. Something's wrong here. Since the brunette didn't show up, the ladies decided to come themselves. It was easier for everyone. Obviously, they'll have to talk, now the heroine won't get out of it, even if she tries to do it. Luna Pelez folds her hands in a gesture, but does not know how to answer. All those emotions are red in her eyes. The beauty is not going to step back, on the contrary offering to enter the estate. Flory is angry such shameless behavior will come to an end. The brunette leads her acquaintances down the corridor. They move slowly so as not to miss anything. The place is old. It will soon collapse. There is not even normal furniture there, not to mention the decoration. Flory thinks that the estate looks more like a commoner's house. The girls walking behind quietly suggest that it would be easier to give up the title than to disgrace all the nobles put together. The pink-haired girl laughs, trying to appear cute, but knowing full well what is really going on. There is no point in being like that. Lady Pelez is desperately trying to restore her family's position. The girl herself does not understand that it is better to behave differently, but she continues to actively flirt with Duke Rodrian. She is shameless and indecent. It is terrible. The heroine freezes. It is difficult for her to try to control herself, but there is nothing else left. Women no longer hide their true faces in front of them. The lady looks like an ordinary simpleton. So it is clear that the beauties discuss for small talk at their real goal. With nothing to get such a terrible situation. It's all because there was an heir to the ducal family Rodrian. Person was the main character's childhood friend. It was all only because of him, it became clear a long time ago. It would be worth saying that the girl was born into a baronet family, known throughout the empire for its poverty. The blue-eyed girl understood that the family never had money. It was not enough to get more in society. Because there weren't even enough candles in the hallway, it was easy to trip and fall. But even if it sounded terrible, the girl never felt unhappy. Thanks to sensitive parents and kind maids, even without money, the beauty would never have felt deprived. Happiness passed, and big changes occurred in her life. It all started with her first exit into this secular world. Luna did not expect that something would go wrong, but she immediately understood what awaited her in the end. It sounded sad. All the girls gathered in the hall began to discuss Pelez as soon as she entered. They thought that the dress was terrible, even for commoners, and discussed her character. No matter how poor Luna was, she should have maintained her dignity. But nothing worked. Flory was the first to say that the lady wanted to restore her family's position. She was obsessed with her childhood friend, Duke Rodrian. The woman is arrogant, as per the taste of others. Many believed that the beauty has no right to try to hang on a friend, because she does not deserve such happiness in such a form. At first, it was just unpleasant, but then the situation worsened. Humiliating rumors began to spread without any reason, and eventually the anger spread to the entire Pales family. One day the servants were burned in a fire that broke out for an unknown reason. The only carriage was destroyed. The horse was poisoned and accidents happened one after another. Blue-Eyed saw everything that happened, and each time she became more and more angry. Her family, just like the heroine herself, did not deserve to experience what was happening. Luna was exhausted. She was tired of constantly trying to resist the pressure. One day the maid brought a letter. It was addressed to the mistress, but it was a little strange. Opening the envelope, the lady freezes. The girl was warned that if she did not let go of Persin, she would definitely be killed, and no one would help her. The words were written in blood. This scared her. The brunette was shocked. It was not clear what to do with it. She felt as if she was cornered. A memory came to mind. It turned everything upside down, making her even more scared. Luna is obsessed with her childhood friend, who was already the protagonist of the novel, Pan Rodrian. She knows what will happen in the end. The girl is destined to die as a minor character without saying a word. The brunette has been reborn as a villain. Now it's really scary. The only plus of the situation is that now the lady understands why she is being pursued by ladies from high society. In the beauty's memories, the reason they were worried was Sarah Granada. The fair-haired girl was a perfect match for her future husband. The original Luna envied the main character of the novel because she got everything she ever wanted. She dreamed of the same thing, constantly thinking about it. The girls who constantly pestered the heroine cared about Sarah so much that they even killed the main villain, disguising it as an accidental death, just so that she could not interfere with the relationship between Granada and Rodrian. In the novel, Luna was not a good person, and so it seemed like this was a worthy end for her. But now everything is different. Florrie starts screaming that no one is even listening to her. Lady Granada is crying because they are throwing themselves at the Duke. She feels terribly bad. The woman is angry inside. She is pretty fed up with what is happening. It would be fair if she did this, but it is not true in order not to appear rude. The lady had to pull herself together and attract attention. This time, she asks to let her clarify the situation. Her beloved is not interesting to her at all. She doesn't like him at all because of a bad relationship since childhood. The blue-eyed girl looked at him with a crazy look. She was pretty tired of listening to accusations. Even now, they don't believe her. Persan is not interesting at all. As a person, he can even be considered something absurd. The lady screams even louder. The man is not only not loved, but also insulted. The brunette clenches her teeth but nods. Then something else needs to be conveyed. The girl is quite serious. Instead of meeting with Rodrian, the lady is ready to do something with the ruthless psychopath who is feared by the entire imperial elite. And we are talking about none other than Auntie's Vincent. Hearing the name that is not usually pronounced, those gathered froze in horror, and the fan with which she had been fanning herself all this time, believing that the room was too hot, fell from Florrie's hands. It is obvious that the lady will not be disturbed anymore. This is for the best. One can only rejoice going out to the door. The heroine turns to Lola. The guests are getting ready to leave the estate. It is already late. Blue-eyed does not understand why the madwoman behaved even worse than usual. They were not pleased. Luna does nothing but lie and insult. Pales will take revenge. Entering the corridor, the lady exhales calmly. It was not easy for her to endure people who do not know how to communicate. For some reason, they do not hear what the mistress of the estate is telling them. In the end, there was only one way out. If the guy had been a little smarter, nothing would have happened. Persan had recently started to irritate even more than before. The main characters like the Duke of Pales are not needed for nothing. Taking out a pen and a sheet of paper, Milady began to write. If a man does not want to be considered a bad person, they will pretend that no one else is for each other. The next day, the message arrived at Rodrian's castle. The man froze in horror, not understanding if they were really breaking off all relations. It sounded terrible. Luna got up in a good mood after that letter. There would be no more unnecessary visits. The tyranny of those girls would stop because Luna and Sarah, in the novel, are completely different. There is a beloved heroine who is distinguished by how weird she is in the same world. There is a villain, everyone hates her for no reason, which forces her to behave worse. Blue Eyes never wanted to be treated with prejudice. But since she had to live like this for the rest of her life, now there was only one thing she needed. Nothing but money, and only money is the real goal. The lady already has a bright future in her head. If only she had the treasured scroll, then the opportunity to earn money would remain a reality. The little girl decided that before doing anything, she had to tell her father nothing else was important. Leaving the room, she headed to her father's office. Frozen in horror, Luna tries to understand what is happening in front of her. Is Persan, whom she hoped to never see again in her life. The boy smiles as if nothing happened. Those girls were supposed to convey the words, but obviously that didn't happen. And the blue-eyed one asks questions. She seemed to have expressed herself clearly, but she remained the last one. The boy thought about it, but only for a second. He smiled even more than before. It was obvious that everything that was said was a joke, but nothing more. Luna would never have given him up. The girl froze, not understanding what to do next. Of course, she knew that her friend was stupid, but it seemed to her that he was not as terrible as he seemed. From the time in the novel, the lady tried with all her might to stay away from Persan, but all her efforts were in vain, as if he did not want to understand words, and climbed where he did not need to. The brunette was already openly shouting that she didn't want to have anything to do with him. She didn't want to show herself from an even more terrible side, but in the end, she no longer had a choice. Blue-eyed cursed the author every day, who had drawn the story exactly like that even now. Standing in the corridor, the boy only asks if his friend is okay. A familiar voice distracted her from her thoughts. As warm as usual, Luna's father greets his daughter. It seems she even managed to meet the Duke. Rodrian does not allow the girl to step forward, rushing to the Baron. Pale smiles back, holding his hands out in front of him. And finally, his daughter's only friend has come to them again, and the two shake hands in salute. The heroine's father was the happy owner of a soft, fluffy character. Unlike Luna, he has a good reputation in society. He has no conflicts with anyone. Of course, it is good to be so pleasant to others, but it also has its downsides. The Baron has a disadvantage. His business opportunities are at a critical level. Trust in anyone who comes develops inside the heart with great progression. A man is often deceived because of his trust remaining a loser. Even when his daughter complained about the rumors that were going around about her, and the Duke, the brunette, laughed, saying that it was a misunderstanding because they were such good friends. The young man does not understand all the details, just like Persen. In this, they are even somewhat similar. Pales could not even dream of managing the family business. At present, he is responsible for documentation at the residence of Duke Rodrian. Blue Eyes had never liked the man's approach to business, but she knew she couldn't do anything about how weak he was, just like his boss's son. Despite her humility, the brunette's head begins to hurt from everything that is happening. She wants them to think about her prospects too. That would be nice. While the lady was thinking about what was going on, the two managed to talk about everything. The words reached her ears. The man would be taken back to the estate in the evening. The Baron would go to work with Persen. The brunette promises that they will see each other in the evening. He will definitely bring a cake for dessert. A fire of anger flared up inside the little girl in a second. He didn't even listen to the words about the breakup of their friendship. Clenching her hands into fists and unclenching her teeth, the heroine calls the maid. It's worth preparing something for dinner. They will have a special guest. They will have to allocate another place. The day flew by. Finally, it was time for dinner. Persen smiled, sitting at the table, talking about how warm and comfortable it was. In the room, he even wanted to stay the night. The Baron nods, suggesting that it is still possible to stay close since so much time has passed. The father does not even suspect how many insults his daughter hears because of her friend. There was an empty seat at the table, and while the man was asking who would be there, a servant came to announce that the guest had arrived, and it seemed she was just in time. The brunette quickly gets up from the table. Persen hurries after her, asking who it is. Smiling slightly, the little girl assures that the acquaintance will be glad to see this girl. Behind the door is Sarah, her snow-white hair loose lying in beautiful waves on her shoulders. The maiden seems happy to see her lover. Sitting down at the table, the Duke helps to put something on a plate. It's a pity that the lady won't be able to enjoy dessert. She has an allergy, but not that strong. The man turns to the moon. It's good that at least she loves sweets and eats them in huge quantities. The blue-eyed one snorts. She thinks that her friend is incredibly tactless. Although this is understandable, Sarah is really amazing. Her looks and sweet personality are worthy of recognition. She shouldn't have fallen in love with Persen. Such a person. It is clear that if she had not been the heroine of the novel with an angelic character, her future husband would not have had a happy ending, which was predetermined only by fate. Luna was thinking about how holy her guest was. She was so lost in her thoughts that she did not hear her friend address her several times. The Duke exhales, noticing that her behavior is not entirely correct. The brunette knows that he has a topic that can be discussed. The conversation turns again to that message. Something strange has happened since the girl sent the letter. Everything has changed. Perhaps Luna has some problems that she can't tell Persen. The brunette lights up with happiness when she announces that she will spend the night at the Baron's house. He will definitely listen to all of his girlfriend's worries, even if it takes the whole night. At that very moment, Milady realized what was about to happen. She jumped up screaming that speaking like that would not be the right step. True horror was reflected in her eyes. The Duke must think with his head, at least a little. Sarah cannot be sent out all alone in the dark night. She might be a little scared because of her situation. Even after the reproach, the hero does not see any problem, pretending that he does not understand anything. The blonde has knights and servants. If the road is dangerous, the man can take her and come back. Words of protest flew out of her mouth again. But then Granada couldn't stand it and jumped up from her seat abruptly, pushing her chair back. Tears welling up in her eyes, the blonde ran away. Luna doesn't hesitate to run after her. Granada deserved better treatment, which she ultimately didn't get, which seems a little sad about this news. The girl was a little late. The blonde was surrounded by friends who were calming her down. She still apologized, asking to be heard. It seemed that the Duke would leave with his future wife. The incident should not have happened. The lady did not think it would be right and tried to avoid any omissions. Finally, Sarah finds the strength to answer. Gritting her teeth, the girl mutters something under her breath, showing how tired she is of all this. She repeats the words, but her voice is full of mockery directed at her interlocutor. Turning around, the lady rubs her eyes a little when she was invited into the estate. She was hesitant. Friends had previously warned about what awaited inside. Flory stated that that man never invites with good intentions. Before that, Luna wanted to ruin the relationship with Persen, but now they want to hurt not only him, but his fiancé. After this, the woman takes a short pause. She calls money from her pocket, which she throws into the face of her friend. She wishes that the moon would no longer interfere in other people's relationships. The blonde is ready to pay as much as necessary, only if the lady disappears. After that, the brunette froze. A scarlet mark remains on her face, and at that very moment, the Duke came running. Granada falls to her knees on purpose to show that she was the one being threatened, but such a clever method didn't help either. The man immediately rushes to his friend, asking if she's okay. The heroine says something, but they don't hear her. Leaning closer, the friend clarifies because he didn't quite hear her. The woman is no longer able to restrain herself. She orders them to get away. Luna doesn't understand why she has to go through everything that's happening. She doesn't like it. She would like everything to be different. Of course, she didn't have any expectations regarding Persen from the very beginning, because he was a child who didn't understand anything at all, but Sarah had to be different. At least it is perfectly understandable why the lady was upset when she saw her fiancé next to some girl, but she ignores people deciding that she has the right to behave as she wants. At the very beginning, the heroine thought that she would be accompanied by a kind girl, but even she looked down on the Baron's daughter, believing that she had the right to do so, even if this was not the case. Entering the estate, Luna went to her room. Now she will not have problems with the lack of money. She promises herself the parchment will help to get the best. Her hand reaches for the scroll. She will have a huge pile of money. They will solve most of the problems Pale's hopes for a bright future that awaits her. In the morning, a scream was heard throughout the estate. The Baron screams, asking why business is just a joke for him. He is furious, he really is. The brunette jumps up from his chair, pointing his finger forward. An immoral person sits in front of him. He should have behaved differently, not like he did now. The blonde chuckled. He didn't think it was normal to say that it was the man who, without warning, made the decision about the size of the commission. The young man crosses his legs, turning away, and pretending that there are no problems. The main people on the network reacted to unfair contracts in exactly the same way. The words make the interlocutor shake with anger. The brunette frowns, the one sitting opposite, regrets that he did this. The hero pretends that he doesn't understand what we're talking about for him. It's funny. The green-eyed man glares, asking if the one who came to him is really going to the top of Antares. Realizing that he is in the minority, because the master's men are nearby, it is better to leave everything as is. He runs out to the door and accidentally hits his head on the chest of some man. The man is huge in size. This adds horror. The man runs out, promising that he will never come again. Antares does not promise attention, asking what happened. The dark-eyed man points to the exit. A noble lady is looking for a gentleman. That beauty's name is Luna Palis. Obviously, she has some important request. Again, someone connected with the Duke. The brunette never liked the hero. He caused mixed, strange feelings that made him think about what was what. The green-eyed man lowers his head. He is not in the mood to continue communicating with the others, but it seems there is no other way out today. Everyone flies flocks to him, but it is better this way. The girl should be let in. A little earlier, the girl made a decision in just a few minutes. She got ready and went to the carriage in which she went to the estate. She understood what her goal was. The brunette exhales, leaning back in her seat. It has been a long time since she left so far from the estate. It is even embarrassing, but at the same time, fascinating. The Pales family only had a title, but nothing more in fact. The girl is always busy with chores, so much so that she does not even have free time to travel. The heroine understood that as soon as she left the house, problems would arise that could only be solved with money. Moreover, the lady would no longer live forever. The gaze again turns to the scroll that has been there all this time. The document gives the right to purchase part of the territory of Pales, which, by the way, is quite profitable and successful. Not long ago, without her father's knowledge, the main character purchased part of the estate in her own name. Since there were only rocky mountains in this place, she would be able to live on little money. Despite her low expectations, the girl did not give up in a place that seems like a useless territory. There is a secret that no one knows about, and that is gold mines. All this time, the lady did not realize how lucky she was, because now she could change the course of her destiny. Of course, many workers would be needed to work in the mines, but somehow everything would work out. If only everything was like in the original story, the family would not even be aware that there was a gold mine on the territory, and they would live in poverty their entire lives. As long as they have the scroll in their hands, this outcome will not happen. The end of the poor life has come. This is the most important thing. Finally, after half an hour, the heroine arrived at the castle. It seems grandiose, even more beautiful than she initially imagined. Before setting off, Milady encountered prejudices. The brunette explained that she needed to go alone, so she was looking for mercenaries to accompany her. The lady did not understand whether there was a suitable place, so she clarified that there was a building in front of the three-way intersection where the girl would be very kindly met. Luna doubted until the last moment. It was a little doubtful, but the place turned out to be better. Going inside, the brunette looks around, trying to understand where exactly she is. There are several men in the room. The girl turns to the tallest one. She came to meet the commander. She must be taken to him. The bald man waves his hand, trying to make them leave him alone. The lady most likely confused the place with the store. She should go back as soon as possible. The heroine does not back down. She arrived with a request. She was advised to contact the carriage rental point. The woman is stubborn. He understands the jokes of such children. Even the most pathetic creature can become a client of the guild. He hints at something else, hearing such words. The girl clenches her hands into fists. She feels physically ill. Instead of retreating, Milady suddenly steps forward. She shows her true feelings, saying that she does not like the attitude. The man didn't immediately understand what was going on, raised an eyebrow, and asked again to clarify the situation. The way he treats clients makes it clear what level the mercenaries are. Blue-Eyed talks about her name, which is probably known in the future. She will become an important client. There will be something to remember when the chance arises. If the guard refused an obviously great profit because of their own blindness, the commander will not like it. Madness is visible in their eyes. They will definitely help them. A little scared, the young man immediately offers to take him to the room. Walking forward along the corridor, the bald man knocks on the door. He immediately announces the girl he spoke about recently. If I manage to hire at least someone, half of the plan will already be completed. I need to talk to the boss, thus ensuring a comfortable future for myself. Entering inside, the brunette looks around. She has strange, mixed emotions. There is no one inside. It is annoying. She can't believe that that person deceived her so easily. A rough voice is heard behind him, calling Luna by name. The blonde man clarifies what the new arrival wishes. She must have an important request, since she arrived so early. Turning around, the blue-eyed girl almost jumped on the spot. The man standing in front of her is incredibly handsome. The brunette begs herself not to think about unnecessary things. The time has not come. Clearing her throat, the heroine says that it turns out she needs mercenaries who will accompany her to the territory of the Pales estate and help with everything she needs. Of course, it won't be entirely easy. We have to admit, you'll have to stay there maybe for a day or two and work hard while remaining productive. Perhaps this is too much, but she would like to ask to postpone the payment for this service. The man flared up with anger. They do not know each other personally, and she is already being asked for such a thing. She has a rich duke. It is strange that she came all this way. The girl never expected to hear something like this from a person she had never met. The girl assures that it is not true, but Antares does not believe it. Rodrian only talks about it. It is impossible to believe otherwise. Now at this moment, the lady curses the one who gave her a fun life, in every sense. Now she has to try to get out of it, although nothing helps. Turning away, the blue-eyed girl waves it off. All this is completely untrue to the question of why the young man behaves like this. The girl found a good answer. She believes that His Majesty has completely lost his mind. The young man creates an illusion that everyone likes the man is just an evil child who causes trouble for everyone around him without realizing that it is wrong. For as long as the girl could remember, that person thought exclusively about what he liked someone like Luna. He was completely unnecessary. He would only ruin her life. The blonde changed his stern look, a little contrary to rumors. It seems that the lady simply hates the Duke, smiling. She nods. In fact, the beauty sincerely wishes that the man would disappear from her sight for the rest of her life. Now, Milady has explained everything well. The brunette is not going to continue the topic that is so unpleasant to her. She wants to talk about the task with which Luna came to the guild. The blue-eyed woman understands perfectly well that this is an unfounded reason, and now she is not going to effectively press, asking for help. The words were interrupted. The man promises that he will help. The blonde felt a certain camaraderie with the one standing in front of him, and Tara's offers to follow him to meet the new mercenaries. The door to the room opened. There were many different men there. The commander had arrived. Everyone gathered immediately fell to their knees and bowed their heads. They wanted to introduce someone to them. Luna is introduced almost immediately as the guild's newest client. The assembled people bow their heads in greeting. The blonde hasn't officially told them what's going on before, but it seems like the time has come. The girl arrived at the top of Antares, where she was greeted with an extremely smiling face, showing how important it was. She froze, realizing that it seemed she had not misheard. This place was connected with the crazy psychopath she remembered. The top is a terrifying castle that hides secrets. The place is sponsored by Auntie's Vincent, who is the most brutal villain of the novel, hence the name given in honor of the man. Moreover, it is known that there are rumors that the young man took bribes because people treat him very badly. The blue-eyed girl is afraid she came to such a house on her own. Noticing the changes in her face, an acquaintance asks if everything is okay. It is better to feel calm. The beauty thanks him through her teeth. It becomes even more difficult for her. After all, the lady cannot cancel the contract. The bald man is the first to jump up from his chair, bowing his head. He apologizes for what happened earlier. Auntie's immediately clarifies what they are talking about, but in order not to set up her subordinate, the lady waves him off, asking him not to pay attention. The man was rude to the heroine, but she has no desire to embarrass him in front of others. The guys are shouting as one asking to be entrusted with any work, which will be done with joy. Nothing is impossible. You can safely trust them. The brunette saw their expressions, and although they only wished well, she felt uneasy. The situation was burdensome. The chief noticed the unhealthy appearance of the lady. She was simply worried whether she would be able to be escorted safely. The guys look rough, but they're all official mercenaries, the man says, which should at least be a little reassuring given the situation. Blue-eyed turns away. She still can't get distracted, although she can't afford anything else. In a second, the decision was made to wait until all this is over. In no case should one get even more involved with Antares. 3 hours have passed, unnoticed. Those gathered are shouting that they will drink to the health of the lady, raising their mugs with drinks. The brunette is asked how she took revenge on the Duke. Luna, full of enthusiasm, tells something about a cake that she threw in his face. According to her, it's really funny, even funny cursing at Persen. The girl got closer to the mercenaries. There are shameless rumors about the lady, and nothing changes. The situation does not improve it. The little girl had a hard time because she was mistaken for that guy's lover. This needs to be corrected. Auntie's himself distracted us from the conversations. He wants to talk separately. It is worth noting that his subordinates are not as bad as it seemed at first. You can be in company with them. The girl laughs slightly. She nods. It's true, no one has greeted her like that for a long time, except for her family and the maids. It's good to know that there is someone else who considers the lady not the most terrible person. The green-eyed man nods. It's good that things aren't going so badly, yet it seems that the mercenaries, just like their master, felt a spirit of camaraderie with the girl. The woman didn't quite understand what was going on. She turned her eyes to the room. If you think about it, all the mercenaries, as soon as the heroine said that she hated Persin, immediately opened up and treated her kindly. The brunette had never heard the full story, but it was obvious that something had happened to her childhood friend. The girl herself did not notice how she stared at the commander's face. He smiled, catching her on it. The face turned scarlet. In fact, the lady did nothing in that case. The man was mistaken. Luna still wants to ask something in a sense. She needs it to divert attention from herself. No matter how much she thought she couldn't understand, Pélez clarified why they continued to talk to her in an informal setting. As soon as the words were spoken, everyone present froze. Auntie himself asked again, not understanding, as if he didn't notice how he communicated with the others. The mercenaries shouted that it didn't matter. The most important thing was not to pay attention, so that there wouldn't be even more problems. Blue-Eyed doesn't like words at all. Guys should think before doing something. She still doesn't think it's right to speak so informally and raises an eyebrow. Of course, the leader was impolite, but it turns out that he is not used to formal speech. The hero is not able to speak normally, so he has a good proposal. It will be easier to agree to talk to each other in a similar spirit. As before, the girl does not think that this is right. She declares that this is all nonsense. She does not like it at all. Making cute eyes, the blonde asks why it can't be done the way he wants. He will do whatever Pals asks. Any request, his face again flushed scarlet. From the very beginning, the lady felt strange. The young man has a handsome face, like the main character Persin. Despite this, the boy is so impudent that he arouses suspicion. Without bending over backwards for the man and pushing away his charming magic, the beauty refused. It is assumed that there is still not enough trust in the leader. Then he can make an offer, just so that the lady could trust more and finally relax. The young man gives the guarantee of the top of Antares. This is a kind of imperial assurance. Now the lady was even more amazed. It turns out that in the castle, they can even give the word of His Majesty. This is literally an expensive insurance, which is managed by the Imperial Palace. This insurance is provided in the event that something unfair happens to the witness. They say that the imperial family personally compensates for all damages. Luna asks the main question, why would a man do this? She has too many questions that will not go away until they are resolved. The green-eyed man just wants to continue speaking informally. He doesn't want anything to change between them. The words made everyone gathered surprised. Even the mercenaries have nothing to say. The Duchy of Rodrian was plunged into silence. The brunette stands by the window, looking at the beautiful sunset. When the Duke arrived to the Baron, he reported that his daughter had gone to the territory of Pales to rest. There was nothing there, which meant she had gone to the Vincent estate. The head of the family said that he had no idea when his daughter would return. Persin was worried the girl was going to do something, but it was grandiose since she didn't say anything. They have always been friends. Everything should have been a little different. The beauty has little money, so she will return soon. In any case, the situation will play into his hands. Despite this, the hero is worried. The gentleman went out into the corridor, looking at the servant passing by. He sternly ordered that a carriage be prepared for him right now, so that nothing else would happen. He was going to leave right then. Luna has been acting strange lately. It's impossible to get these thoughts out of your head since childhood. The little girl was sweet and kind to her friend. Of course, he doesn't know that these are his delusions. Now, when quite a lot of time has passed, the lady increasingly sulks and gets angry for no reason. I would like to know why she does this. It's not right. At first, it became even sadder. At that moment, the hero realized that the girl was probably preparing a party for him as a surprise. Obviously, it was a mistake to think that such a wonderful person could hate a man. The young man smiles, thinking to himself that everything will be fine. In fact, they are great friends. He has not forgotten this, and it warms his soul to this day. Because the lady was remembered, she staggered. An extremely unpleasant feeling appeared in the back of her mind, which she could not get rid of in any way she stumbled, but she was glad that her friend managed to catch her under the elbow. The green-eyed man asked in a worried voice if everything was okay. Jumping back sharply, the lady shook her head. There was no need to worry about her. She suddenly imagined that Persin was nearby. It was obvious that she had suffered a lot. The door to the carriage opens. There is already someone there. The man asks to say hello to the inspector, sent from the palace. He will be traveling with them for the next couple of days, just to help with everything. Bowing her head, Luna says, "Hello!" Then she is helped into the carriage. The brunette is still not sure if what is happening is true. She does not believe that they have received the recognition of the imperial family. At first, it was hard to believe that she had not been given anything, but then everything changed. They gathered only those mercenaries whom they already knew by sight, and at the same time, no one had yet received a penny in advance, although the maiden had asked for it. The blue-eyed girl thought that they would ask more of her, but for such a promise, the boy wished to be addressed in an informal manner because he himself does not know how to behave differently, deciding to break the ice a little and break the silence. The heroine asks one question. They seem to have already signed a contract, but the lady still does not know the name of the one who will help her. They will have to travel together. It would be good to know the names. For a second, the interlocutor thought, looking away. "How about General?" he asks, smiling slightly. His Majesty calls him by the same name, so they will feel like colleagues. Waving him off, the brunette suggests abandoning the idea, since the man doesn't want anything more. It's hard to understand what exactly the new acquaintance is thinking about. He resembles a closed book. The girl looks closely into the guy's eyes. He smiles, remaining calm, but showing himself to be even stranger. It becomes uneasy, but he is not that terrible. A little red. And again, not understanding what was wrong. What provoked this? The girl looks out the window. If this continues, she is not sure whether she will be able to get there safely and soundly. Of course, she would like that. The carriage arrived at the place. There are mountains around. There is not a single soul. The blonde looks, asking if this is the right place. Luna nodded, because they really arrived exactly where they needed to. It was time to get to work. The rocky terrain of the Pales estate attracts attention only because of its beauty, but it seems unnecessary. The chief decided to clarify he did not understand what the lady was going to do in such a place. Perhaps she was going to pick up stones. The blue-eyed woman got angry. The man pretended not to know, just to laugh. But the lady doesn't like such games. She pointed her finger forward. Of course she's looking for prey. She's going to dig that mountain, as if she wants to get rid of it. For Antares, at first glance, it is nothing more than an ordinary mountain. He pretended not to understand, but it is closed. Luna is happy because she is in anticipation. Today, they will dig up just a particle, and then she plans to hire workers for full-fledged extraction. Now that everything was explained, the woman's eyes sparkled. She ordered to go and do some interesting manual labor, and so the day flew by. It was quite difficult. Almost all the time, the guys hit the mountainous terrain with picks, not losing hope of finding something interesting. Finally, something glowing was discovered. The workers did not believe it. They started shouting. Inside the rock, there was a huge gold mine. One look is enough to understand that the reserves are simply enormous in themselves. My lady will become the richest in the empire. The guys are unable to calm down. In the original, Luna sold this mountain because there was no more hope and no funds for excavations either. It is hard to believe that such deposits belong to Pales. It was necessary to remember about the papers back then. Now, everything is different. I want to jump from the sincere joy that takes over the body. I have a piece of gold in my hands. After meeting it all, the suffering will finally come to an end. The green-eyed man also picks up the gold, carefully studying it. He didn't believe it, but he had to. Even though the stone is not processed, it is clean. The head is not a professional, but it seems that this is the highest grade. One can only rejoice at such successes, doing so completely sincerely. Such a huge number of deposits does not even require confirmation. It became perfectly clear to him why the lady had turned pale. Her reaction was quite real. Luna was worried about her safety. She was lucky that now everything was over, especially safely. The woman snorted. She sharply pointed her finger towards the workers. The gentleman did not know, but as soon as a person buys something expensive, there is a risk that people with burning eyes can stab you in the back. Luna smiles, but it's obviously fake, which makes it even more uneasy since this trip is supported by the royal family. No one should have a problem keeping quiet. The mercenaries immediately rushed to the lady, each shouting about something of their own. They really consider themselves good guys. Maybe it's not noticeable from the outside, but each of them wants justice. Fighting back, the brunette begs to stop being hysterical. She believed in the words Pales exhaled. She felt better as soon as they finish all their business in the mountains. Everyone is entitled to a bonus for good work. The blue-eyed woman asks to be even more diligent. She didn't have to repeat it twice. Grabbing the guns, the guys ran ahead. The woman was actually tired, but there was still a problem. She asked a question. In fact, it became interesting whether the deal would come to an end or not. Everything should end when the sample of the stone is sent to the capital and the remaining deposits are extracted. The young man smiled languidly, shrugging his shoulders, and thereby arousing suspicion. Luna promised to pay the workers. According to their merits, this should be enough. She does not believe that suddenly, the terms of the contract can be changed. The blonde shook his head. He was talking about something else. Of course, about completing the contract as soon as the extraction is finished. The relationship cannot be broken off so easily. Holding out the piece of gold that was picked up from the ground, the green-eyed man makes a strange offer. It makes you fall into a stupor. Sell all this to the heads of Antares. Of course, he promised much more in return. I had to turn away, so that it wouldn't be noticeable how the girl was thinking. She admitted that the offer sounded tempting. This situation would help to gain recognition from the imperial family. It was unlikely that she would be able to conclude such a successful deal, that was a fact. The eyes returned to the familiar man standing just a few steps away. He tried to win her over, at least with his smile. Making a deal with Antares was like arbitrarily climbing into the tiger's mouth. It would not end well, but the lady agreed she had one condition. The Rodrian estate was always quiet, but that day everything was different. A woman arrived and asked why Person was not in his own house. He had promised to meet his future wife. The butler, sitting opposite the lady, quickly put two and two together. Realizing where this was leading them, it seemed the young man had left the castle again without warning anyone. They had to come up with something to save the situation. The old man asks Granada for forgiveness for what happened. The owner said that the matter was very urgent, so he had no choice but to leave in a hurry. He did not say when he would return. The blonde clutches the hem of her dress tightly, her thoughts becoming more and more intrusive, hard to cope with. Just like usual, she asked to find out if the Duke's business was connected with his girlfriend. Zillion lowered his head. He wanted to say at least something, but there was a confrontation in his head. His bad side was whispering, trying to win him over. They both knew that the gentleman grasped everything on the fly. It is clear that if the old man dares to continue lying, she will immediately see through it. It would be much better to tell everything as it is, and dilute the situation with something the gentleman himself will then deal with his bride. The angel, the pure side of the soul that still remains, calmly addresses the owner. Do not hurt the purest heart, because in this situation, you need to deny and protect the beauty to the last, trying to help her. An even stronger confrontation begins inside. It grows in a wave upwards. The demon hates Person because of him. There are only problems. The angel understands that the engagement can fall through. It needs to be protected. In fact, everything is more complicated. Zillion could have been fired. The decision was made immediately. The old man explains that it is true the gentleman left in a hurry, but this time the matter is in no way connected with Pales. Despite the encouraging words of truth, the blonde still looks even sadder. Recently, the young man often talked about her. That's why the lady began to doubt. Person is not as bad as he seems after everything he does. The green-eyed one did not want this, but began to doubt herself. She proposed marriage, and she is constantly worried about Milady. It is scary to think that the girl is not an object of interest, but someone who is capable of stealing a heart. Listening to all this, Zillion felt worse. He felt sorry for the bright soul who deserved a completely different attitude towards herself. The woman is Rodrian's only and beloved bride. She should know this. The butler keeps telling lies, skillfully mixing it all with the truth. The reason why the man visits the lady is because he is trying to be generous, paying tribute to their old friendship. There is no need to worry about that. The lady nodded. She understood that she could not press any further, so she was about to leave perhaps later, when she managed to see Person. More details would become clear, that was her hope. Zillion leans back tiredly on the sofa, exhaling from anger and disappointment. At this rate, he won't be able to live to retirement every time someone else touches him. Rodrian should have thought twice, and not talked about Pales, thereby exposing himself. Subdued light, which the room does not need. Two people were sitting on the sofa, on the table. There was a paper where everything was written down. Auntie started talking about the contract, considering the woman's conditions. It would be a decent amount. The brunette froze when she saw the figure. Her eyes almost popped out. In her heart, she wanted to scream because they would give her too much. But on the outside, she had to remain calm, pretending that this was exactly what she expected. She decided to discuss the conditions again. Firstly, gold could only be bought at the highest price on the market. Secondly, the labor force for mining would be provided by Antares. The woman knew that she would succeed. The very last condition was the simplest: she wanted payment in advance. The blonde nodded, agreeing again, and promising to prepare a check casually. He remembered that the lady was heading to the capital. The beauty really had some unfinished business; she would go straight to do it. The man asked, clarifying whether she had found the cart in response. There was silence. Obviously, the answer was no. The gentleman offered to use his carriage from the guild. Luna froze; she was all for it. But she believed that there was no need for it either. It was impossible to ask for too much. Antares does not understand. The blue-eyed woman herself said that she was just looking for good options. She was downloading a certain spirit of partnership the man decided to play on her nerves, noticing that maybe that's why he wants to please her in everything so much. In an instant, the beauty's face lit up with color. She became embarrassed. As never before, the girl promised that they would see each other later and ran away. The blonde chuckled. He wanted to see her as soon as possible. It was very fun to be around her. Mercenaries gathered on the street. One of the main ones turned to the general. It is clear that they have a big deal at stake, but usually the man never resorted to such methods. I had to explain everything in detail. It was quite simple. Luna was now one of the significant owners of a gold mine in the Empire. Of course, it was necessary to show herself from the best side. If someone had offended the Lord, he would not have had to envy such a good deal. After weighing all the pros and cons, the guys decided that there was every reason to believe in the best. As expected from a general, he has a plan for all occasions, which of course only encourages the green-eyed man waves it off. He realized that he really behaved a little differently. They know him too well, like all habits. Luna Pales is a special character. Contrary to rumors, she is very thorough and judicious. Although she is very calculating, it cannot be said that there is insensitivity. Moreover, the girl knows how to win people over. The heroine looks more like a thoughtful merchant than an aristocrat. Yet what interests the guy most is what happened between her and Persin at the first meeting. As well as later, the woman screamed she obviously doesn't like him. A strange image was firmly lodged in his head. The girl now seemed angry at the Duke. A light laugh escaped from his chest. Andres did everything to present himself in a good light, but somehow he became more interested in her than he planned. For the first time, the hero acknowledged that the Duke could be useful. Thanks to him, he had the chance to meet Luna. This was something good, although not capable of overshadowing everything else that the man had done. The general was distracted from his thoughts. One of the mercenaries came running with some news about the guest. The one who it seems should not meet with pails arrived. He was sent to the back entrance. The gentleman must check for himself. Even as the young man was hurrying into the hall, he already understood what was going on. Of course, it was none other than Persin sitting on the sofa. His face expressed nothing but hostility. Only he could come without permission and invitation. Snorting, the brunette turned away. He looked offended by the situation. The green-eyed man asked why they had paid him a visit after the guys from the guild had fought with the Duke. Last time he wanted to have hope in his heart that he would never appear again. His face turned red with shame, but the man quickly recovered. Realizing that he shouldn't lose, they weren't going to joke, and the whole truth that the gentleman was about to reveal was already known. Jumping up from the couch, the guy loses all his self-control. He shouts something about the guild leader getting violent, and then asks where Luna is. They calmly answer him. He has no idea what they are talking about. For Rodrian, the words are more like a mockery. The woman got to the estate only thanks to Antares. An acquaintance threateningly orders to bring his girlfriend, whom he truly misses. The words escaped by accident when he called Luna his. The green-eyed man openly lets out a chuckle. Now he finally understood what his attitude towards the beauty was. The woman was right when she shouted that she did not want to see Persin bending down. The blonde revealed the truth, that Peleus could not stand her friend, otherwise she would not have even come. There is madness in her eyes. It could have made her feel uneasy. Her voice is breaking from screaming. Luna was deceived. She didn't know what she was getting into. Vincent should have kept quiet and not told stories. The blonde leaned against the table, trying not to think about many things. He only thought about the fact that it was impossible to talk to the man. His behavior was incredibly annoying. Now Antares was going to answer as it was. The face turned slightly red. The eyes lit up with a warm light. The man plays part of his role, realizing that he is doing the right thing. The hero's girlfriend entered into a very special relationship with the gentleman. The brunette froze in surprise. He said quietly, "What?" It is clear that it is better not to continue, but the hero is not going to stop. He explains how they did not talk about purity bearing their souls and became more than just friends, and even spent several nights together. Hearing this, the Duke began to ask again. He did not suspect the truth, so he remained horrified. Luna could not be interested in someone like Vincent. He is different from a normal person. The young man rushes forward. He looked even more furious because he was letting out all his emotions. The girl was supposed to meet a friend, but ended up meeting someone who was proclaimed a psychopath in the circles of other people. The blonde chuckled, his face slightly twisted, but for a second he needed to keep his cool and finish the performance. However, everything was clear to him. The interlocutor's hand grabbed the sword. Luna herself would never have said something like that. These are all dirty tricks. I want to show what will happen next. Someone like Vincent had no right to approach the girl. Pales tried to fool him, assuring him that everything was right, but the man will not leave it that easy. He will not allow it. The sword rushes towards the interlocutor. Now someone will happen. The squabble ended quickly. The blonde asked, not understanding who allowed the Duke to wave his weapon on someone else's territory. The man did not understand what was wrong. He should have been more careful if you were in illusions for too long. You could go crazy that day. The head promised to forgive, because he was in a good mood. But not everything is so simple. Then the young man warned that if his friend continued to talk nonsense, Vincent would have no choice but to show what it meant to be a real psychopath. After these words, the hero was horrified, but it got even worse when the sword was broken. In his mind, he could not understand how Luna could like such a monster. Grabbing his weapon, the brunette tail between his legs runs away, promising that they will see what happens next. He is very pathetic. An assistant came into the room. He heard screams and asks if the general is okay. There is no point in scaring the young man. Like last time, it is better to break the cart on which the man arrived and make it so that he cannot find a replacement and leave. It is better not to let Person escape for a while, going to the table. He said that he was going to the capital. The mercenary does not understand what is wrong and why such a rush. Everything was too fast. Picking up a beautiful jacket, the blonde turns around. He has a couple of documents left that need to be handed over to a VIP client. She probably won't remember them, but that's right. The man is worried about something in the Duke's words. The sun was shining. The city, as usual, came to life around lunchtime. People were walking back and forth, going about their business. 3 people were having tea. One of the girls was laughing, commenting on an interesting story, leaving her mug on the saucer. Flory began the story. She smiled, asking if her friends knew about something interesting that had happened recently. The Pales family had committed a new crime. Of course, they couldn't resist. The brunette gasped. She couldn't believe that they had done something wrong again. This time, Luna had organized a dinner party at her estate and invited Milady Granada, having done everything necessary for her plan. The friends thought that Sarah had suffered, but they did not hear the whole story. Rodrian was present. Apparently, the woman wanted to boast of her friendly ties to Milady, worsening her emotional state. A woman should not be allowed to do whatever she wants. She is terrible and deserves only the worst. The women knew there would be a second dinner that they had to attend. They promised they would be there. Pales would be destroyed. Luna herself did not understand what awaited her. The woman arrived at the place. She thanks for taking her. The man should have left, but instead asked where the girl was going. The general ordered him to guard. The heroine could not refuse. She understands what will happen next, but is completely immersed in her thoughts. The brunette hopes that her father will like the surprise, and thinks about what to buy Emma and Lola. She passed by one of the boutiques. Of course, the beautiful dresses in the window attracted attention. They are truly wonderful. The brunette was not recognized for a long time, and precisely because of her appearance, she thought it would be nice to start with clothes. Turning to her security guard, the lady clarifies the questions that interest her. She asks if there are any quality stores nearby. Of course, there are better ones from the middle segment. Everything can be chosen. The brunette looks straight into the eyes, asking if the lady would like to choose the most expensive boutique. Sparkling in response, the heroine nodded, as if he read her thoughts. After a while, the two found themselves in the best place. It was even more luxurious than it seemed in her head. The brunette looks around with interested eyes. She hopes that the dresses will not cost more than her entire house. Each item has many precious stones. It takes your breath away. The staff saw those who entered. They immediately began to whisper. "They are unlikely to be buyers," said one. Of course, even in this place there is prejudice. Such poorly dressed people cannot be customers. Most likely the woman is a servant and the man is an errand boy, nothing more. The blue-eyed girl doesn't know yet what awaits her. She quietly turned to the assistant. Most likely they should have signed up in advance. The buyer came in, and no one even moved from their place. The brunette shrugged his shoulders. He doesn't know. After all, he also came for the first time. A familiar voice was heard, which was disgusting. Florrie goes inside, her friends follow her. She could not help but recognize the wretched dress that she had seen before. The girls nodded, condemning Milady. The aristocrat was never distinguished by her intelligence or sense of tact. She also lacks manners. It is unclear what Luna forgot in the boutique. Even if she pawned everything she had, she still would not be able to afford anything. The brunette assumed that Mr. Rodrian asked her to buy him something. Pales, in their opinion, is capable of many things, but little of this will show itself from a good side. The green-eyed man turned to the woman, but she just waved him off. It is much easier not to pay attention. Their words will not interfere with the completion of the task. Stepping forward, the lady announces that she will buy the most expensive dress that exists. A different reaction was expected, but the girls only burst out laughing. A poor woman like Plea wouldn't even have enough for a ribbon. She should have kept quiet and left. For the first time, the heroine is angrier than usual. There is too much noise around. She asks to shut her mouth, because she also came only to do some shopping. Everyone knows that Pales is a beggar, and the aristocrats can't wait to see what happens next. The blue-eyed one offers to bet that if she really is so poor that she can't afford one dress, she will make whatever she is ordered. One of Florrie's friends snorted. She didn't know where such confidence came from, but the lady herself decided that the bet didn't look like something bad. She would gladly accept it. The conditions would be fulfilled. Luna smiled. For some reason, she knew that they would fall for the simplest manipulation, turning away. The lady turned to the administrator, asking to bring her the most expensive option of clothes, while the rest would sit down to enjoy the view. Florrie noted that the result would be obvious, but she still agreed to this. She allowed the woman to try to buy the best, because then she would even have to lick the shoe if she was ordered to do so. The brunette extended her hand, asking to pass the catalog without smiling. The consultant extends it. Thinking about something else, she still thinks that the one who came to the store pretended to be someone important. In fact, she is a servant. At the same time, it is possible that the woman has more money than it may seem. It is all too complicated. There is a whisper around. Of course, the lady can hear it, but she quietly continues to calmly leaf through the booklet. The lady's friend asks if Florrie has thought of what she will order her to do. The lady chuckles. She hasn't thought of it yet, but she will probably find a way to put the girl in her place. The woman chose the perfect moment. She ordered to bring everything that was in the catalog. The words made those gathered choke on their tea. They were in shock. Luna will pay with a check. It will not be difficult for her. The friends don't understand where the money came from, and immediately decide that it was stolen. The shop owner was handed a check. It turned out to be black, the kind used by the upper class. The man jumped up, promising that the lady would be served as a VIP client. Stopping in the middle of the hall, the brunette ordered all the workers to carry whatever the young aristocrat wanted to carry. Not only dresses, but also shoes, along with jewelry that would suit my lady. Florrie lost consciousness for her. What was happening was too complicated. Her thoughts took over, smiling as if trying to seem nice. The woman promised that she would return to the ladies as soon as she was free after the fitting. The first thing they showed immediately caught my attention. The mannequin is wearing this season's model. The new fabric and completely new design are perfect. The next model in scarlet will highlight the hair color. It is no worse. There were a lot of offers. One of the best was the last one. The dress on the one hand is decorated with hundreds of crystals. It is clear that no expense was spared on this. The woman was thinking about what she should do next. Choosing one option would be problematic. The heroine asked to prepare everything that she had been shown before. In addition to the outfits, the heroine pointed to a necklace, shoes, and another ribbon in general, to everything. The best, the aristocrat whispers in her friend's ear. She could not believe that what was happening was connected with reality. Perhaps the check was fake. There had to be at least some kind of catch. Blue-eyed heard the words. It was time to lower the curtain. Perhaps the beauty did not tell, but she owns a gold mine from which money flows like a river. Her face expressed calm, but mockery was visible. Flory could no longer remain silent, jumping up from the sofa. The woman began to scream at the top of her lungs. Even lies had to have some limits. Since there was a gold mine, the lady should not have lived like a beggar all this time. This went beyond all bounds. Not wanting to believe didn't change the situation. It remained true in any case. There was something more important in the end. The friend lost the bet. They made a deal, and you can't put off what you have to do. You have to fulfill the wish as soon as possible. Luna is not one of those who like to stain her shoes with spit. She would like to change what Flory does in the end. All this goes beyond the limits. The woman clenches her teeth in anger. She still has nothing to say, it only gets worse. The assistant supports his master's client. There are many people around, it will not be possible to do so that no one notices anything. Good news for a new rumor in high society is actually even better. Luna smiles easily. She enjoys every moment. One of the consultants bowed her head, asking for forgiveness. For interrupting the guys, prepared all the jewelry and shoes. The remaining dresses will be delivered in the very near future directly to the beauty's estate. The brunette asked that next time their store be visited again, they would be waiting for Palis. The blue-eyed woman turned away. She chuckled, saying, "Well, I don't even know. A boutique where they meet you by your clothes. The woman would not want to return. She doesn't see the point in it." The consultants promise that they will take this into account in the future and will not behave like this anymore. They have long understood that they will not see the girl again, but they continue to hope until the end that she will change her mind. Everything is too complicated. The heroine remembers that she must make a wish. She will definitely not miss it. The woman understands that now is her time to gloat. She has thought of what she will choose and sees the horror on the faces of her acquaintances. They probably do not understand what awaits them. The task, as it turned out, was quite simple. They would need to get home from the boutique they were in. They would not be able to use help just like the cart. They would have to get there on foot. Such were the terms of the deal. Flory was the first to lose her temper. She caught fire. Her face turned red. Her eyes were filled with genuine anger. Luna seemed not to understand what she was saying. The lady's house was too far away. The blue-eyed girl smiled innocently. Then the second, no less bad option was saved in her. The heroine suggested something much worse. The whole next year, the lady would be a servant for the aristocrat. Most likely, the aristocrats would not make good help. But since they wanted it, the lady was not against it. Without listening to the end, Flory ordered her friends to go outside. She would not stand another minute next to my lady. Remaining calm, Palais turns to the assistant. It's time for them to leave too. They will deal with everything else as it comes. Then, as it turns out, getting there in shoes and a dress will not be so easy. But the girls deserve it. The woman had made such a wish, not because of a couple of taunts in the boutique she could have forgotten about, that the whole place was because they killed the only horse in the estate and destroyed her father's carriage. The Baron was most upset by this. When his friends did this, it wasn't enough for them. They hired mercenaries to cause a landslide on the road leading to the Pales estate. Because of everything that happened, the man, when he went on business, had to ride in an old cart just like some kind of cab driver. It was unpleasant. Then the girl asked him to be careful on the road. She was really worried. The man just smiled, showing that he really knew what he was talking about. Slight inconveniences and everything else didn't matter. He wasn't worried he would be fine. The Baron thought that his daughter was having a harder time than him, so she should take better care of herself. The hero promised that he would try his best to buy a new carriage, and everything would be better for them from now on. The woman thought that the pranks ended there, and even if they did not do anything terrible, they continued to pester Luna's family. Her loved ones suffered the aristocrats sent to set fire to the estate, sent threats written in blood. It's scary to think, but if the blue-eyed girl hadn't intervened, she would most likely have ended up like in the original. Only death would have awaited her, nothing more. Of course, the heroine didn't want to die ending her life so simply. First of all, a woman must pay for her family, since she has extra money, such as strength. She understands that there are only advantages. Luna opened the door, calling Lola. Perhaps she was not asleep yet. Instead of a maid, the Baron appeared in the corridor. He did not notice that the girl had arrived. The woman was worried about the man's condition and asked why he hadn't gone on vacation. The brunette knew that his daughter would return the next day, but it seemed to him that the girl was about to return home, hugging the girl's hand. Pales asks how her trip went. The blue-eyed woman was a little hungry. She realized that she wouldn't mind eating. Smiling, the beauty thanked him from the bottom of her heart for his care. Suddenly, the hero thought that the woman had returned early only because she didn't have enough money. Luna explained that she had simply finished her business early, so she decided not to stay there any longer, and that conversation began that was important. The lady would not want her father to continue working. The brunette froze with a surprised face. He did not immediately understand why he was being asked about such a thing. The girl was very ill, and she needed care. It is clear that there could be no other reasons. Shaking her head. The lady smiles. He will no longer have to work because he will be provided with a luxurious life. No matter how good the news sounded, it still didn't seem real. What happened was impossible, unless the aristocrat got rich overnight. He didn't know what his daughter was doing. He could only guess. The brunette remains calm, she answers, promising that everything is fine. She really managed to get rich. The blue-eyed one asks about the land that was once bought from a man. It happened literally a week ago and was part of a great plan. The woman admits that she was actually a buyer and managed to discover gold ore right there. It is necessary to explain in detail so that it becomes more understandable. The essence is not always revealed in the first minutes. If you mine gold for some time, then in the future this place will only bring more profit. Luna received payment in advance from one agency, but there will be even more. There are almost tears in his eyes. The young man lowers his head sadly and apologizes. Everything happened because of his father, but he does not have time to explain what the reason is. The girl begs him not to speak badly. The most important thing is that now she will not have to worry about money. However, if the heroine was born in another family, she would not have to go through this. The little girl waved it off. She had never thought about it in that way. She remembers how she was walking with her father. It was cold, and because of this, she developed a cough and a runny nose. The man gently wiped her face, asking if she had caught a cold. It was not easy for her without her mother. The father felt that he was not good enough to raise his daughter. He should have tried to behave better and take better care of her, distracting her from such thoughts. The child stretches out her hands. Luna asked to be hugged this way. She will instantly warm up. The relationship in the family is too important. The lady never thought that her father was not good enough. She always knew how much they do for her to protect her. She asks not to think badly anymore. The way the girl grew up is the Baron's merit. The girl steps back. She had one request. The brunette nodded. If he could help, he would do everything he was asked. The blue-eyed girl persistently asked that the man become the main manager of her gold ore. He would help with all deliveries. Pales does not know where life will take them, but hopes only for the best. Together, they will defend the name of their family. The woman knows that the young man could not do something like this. While raising the baby, the time has come, and the hero responds positively. The heroine went to dinner. She didn't stop anywhere during the trip, and she couldn't refuse Emma even if she had a full stomach. The plate was empty in a matter of minutes. The woman's dishes are always very tasty, probably even the best in the area, according to the lady. The blue-eyed woman often remembered the blonde while she was away, wishing that she could be nearby. The beauty smiles. It is better to eat more to gain strength. The heroine's father left early in the morning and didn't even have breakfast. The morning was strange. The brunette is not worried at all. Probably the man went to say that he was quitting his job to now do something of his own. At some point, Luna began to realize that she had even more advantages since the man was leaving the Rodrian estate, which meant that the reasons to see Persen would probably decrease the smile itself, flashed for just a second. In the end, it was decided not to think about anything extra. The woman prepared gifts. She would be glad if they were accepted. The beauty thanked her for always being fed deliciously. This is of great importance. She just wants to please someone. The brunette holds out a beautifully decorated box, with a bow on top. Emma notes that in the situation the lady is in, it probably shouldn't have been done smiling even more. The brunette promises that everything is fine. It's worth opening the box sooner. The maid will gladly accept the gift. She opened the lid and froze in shock. From there you can see a beautiful brooch of enormous size with a stone. Even if the assistant catches all the ducks, chickens, and pigeons of the empire, she will not be able to accept such a thing. Other servants came running into the room. One of them shouted, asking about the carriages outside. They were all from the boutique. Luna's name was indicated as the customer. In their opinion, this looks like some kind of deception. Jumping up from her seat, the brunette lights up with happiness. She ordered, "All this. There is no need to worry." There were also gifts for two of them that they would definitely have to accept. This is just a sign of appreciation for everything the lady does. Most likely nothing more. Lola refused, believing that the salary they receive is enough for them. But in any case, she took the gift. Hanley was at a loss for words. It was too important and too luxurious. Luna had to calmly explain that everything that was happening was not a dream and was not fake, especially since she had not stolen anything. The guys tried to object, but the lady explained that she had earned this money, found gold ore, and thus earned it. Emma wiped her tears with a handkerchief, exclaiming that she was happy everything was fine, and that was the most important thing for a very long time. High society had looked down on the woman and her father. Everyone hated them, but now everything would change. The servants believe that this still does not mean the end. The Pales will be able to become the richest in this empire. You still want to ask if this is really not a dream. Even after all the explanations, the blue-eyed one nods. She asks for forgiveness that everything happened so unexpectedly. The brunette didn't think that the clothes would be delivered so quickly. If she had known, she would have probably taken care to tell earlier. The words made her remember the boutique that left many options of different dresses outside. Emma pointed to hanger number 1. Now you can change your clothes at least 100 times a day. The most beautiful is intended for the mistress. She deserved a lot before. The maids are crazy. Now they see nothing but how to make the lady better today. They will pick out what will look best for her. Lola always dreamed of helping with outfits. Now it has become a reality. The blue-eyed girl had no choice but to agree. She nodded because she was near the window. She involuntarily turned around. A familiar carriage was visible there. A blond man was getting out of the carriage. He and the lady had not seen each other for a long time. Of course, he did not come without a reason. The woman came down to greet him back. But the first question was a little different. She didn't understand what brought the acquaintance straight to her house. It seemed that Vincent must have been busy because of the gold mines. The blonde explained that he had come precisely for this reason. The green-eyed man thought again. He had something else that could be added to their contract on paper. It seemed to him that it would be better if the girl looked at everything herself, and only then decided whether to agree, or whether it was a little unnecessary. A smile lit up everyone around, but it was obvious that he was playing a role. The young man arrived without an invitation. It was strange that he could hope for something more. He should have thought about it earlier. Of course he wanted to refuse, but the servants standing behind him did not allow this, pointing with their hand inside the estate. The lady asked to enter. The two walked calmly down the corridor. Pales would like to avoid a conversation, especially in her house. But obviously, no one gives her a choice. She is confused by the fact that the man has arrived. He will have to ask a few questions to understand at least something. The purpose of the visit is still in the fog. In addition to his behavior, Vincent distinguished himself with his appearance. For some reason, the man dressed up, put on a luxurious brooch, a suit, shoes, and even styled his hair. It seemed that the gentleman was getting ready for a date. But no, distracted from her thoughts, causing her to jump in fright. Auntie's jokes about how the blue-eyed girl has fallen in love with him, since she is looking at him so intently, She shakes her head to show that it is not true. It is a pity, I really hoped for this. Some of his phrases make her feel even more uncomfortable. It turned out that the young man heard the girl being interested in him. Perhaps this is true or has meaning. The rumors turned out to be false. There is no other explanation. The girl does not understand what is being discussed. She only raised an eyebrow, asking again. The man met with Persen, who told him something. It turned out that Luna had told her friend that she wanted to meet with Aunties, who was known as a psychopath. Not that the words weren't true in high circles, but it was still considered something offensive. The woman froze. She had to ask again. Raising the paper in his hands, the young man explained, "Everything is correct. He is the eldest son of Marquis Vincent, a representative of the Antares Alliance, and the most important in the sphere that he himself built, piece by piece." Blue-eyed is not sure if she misheard, or if reality really embodied in the most terrible thoughts. This name did not bring anything good with it. Aunties is considered a ruthless psychopath who is avoided by all the imperial nobility. He is the one who is called the sworn enemy of the main character Persen. So it was in the novel. The brunette doesn't know what to do next. She's scared. Her blood seems to freeze in her veins. She understands that she should calm down. The man hasn't done anything bad yet, so it's not a loss. Thoughts are racing through her head. It seems to be getting harder and harder to concentrate. The woman exclaimed. She didn't understand why she hadn't been told before there had been so many opportune moments that had ultimately been unfortunately missed. The blondie chuckled. If he had done that, the acquaintance might have run away as everyone else had done before her. The head of the guild did not want anything to interfere with their cooperation. He liked the woman very much, so he could not calmly not react and destroy their invisible connection. Even here, something is wrong. The blue-eyed one asks why he liked her. The servants standing behind are watching the unfolding scene. Of course they are interested, the young man replied. She was special from the very beginning, because she hated Persen turning away. The woman looks angry. Perhaps she expected something more. If the man is going to continue to say all sorts of stupid things, then perhaps it is better to just leave. No one knows the hero is looking at the girl. Her emotions are pouring out. Of course, what was said was a joke. They agree. But this is actually just an excuse. The woman came to the guild herself. She was not frightened by dozens of people who were twice her age. The leader noticed that the lady was much braver than other noble people. She did not try to move away from this as soon as she entered the estate. One of the best qualities that is immediately noticeable is the prudence of the lady. She will always defend her share, will not give up halfway. Many say that an aristocrat should not be like that. This may sound like a boring sermon, but the hero tries to correctly explain what he feels, everything that was just listed. He likes it all. The green-eyed man considers the lady special and attractive. Hands clenched into fists, although eyes watched attentively, without betraying emotions. When the line ended, the lady jumped to the side, waving her hands. She understood everything a long time ago. There is no need to explain it to her anymore. There will be no point in this, the man has just started. But the woman reminds that initially they have a different goal. The young man exhales, smiling slightly. The way she doesn't give up is also unique, but she can't say it out loud. The brunette almost runs further down the corridor. The blonde is becoming more and more interested in her person. Now there is no turning back. The Baron arrived at the Duke's estate. He looks around. It's been 20 years since the man started working for Rodrian. He feels strange, but it's time to say goodbye. Because at some point, you have to move on. Much water has passed under the bridge, but the dismissal doesn't really seem wrong. Everything was initially fascinating. The estate was rich, and therefore it was interesting to work and be there. The Duke's men were not happy that a poor man had come to them, so now they must be happy that the Baron is finally leaving. The reaction will be a surprise. We will see what Persen's father will say. A smile is reflected on the face. In this case, it is considered sincere, more than sincere. The brunette does not regret anything. From this moment, he will start a new life for the sake of his daughter. She deserves help and even more love. The Baron hopes that his employer will agree to the resignation. The door opened. Suddenly a scream was heard. Persen appeared on the threshold. He looks as if he is about to start destroying everything. Probably the girl's father does not know what happened to her. The young man quickly heads forward. When Luna was outside the house, She still met someone the man does not understand why everything is so sudden. He has many questions. It seems as if all this is too much, at least by his standards. The Duke won't calm down. Pales has a boyfriend. It seems like there's going to be an explosion. There are already too many emotions the girl's father wanted Persen to calm down first. This is not his first request. Luna herself understands what she's doing. She's not 5 years old to be under constant control. Still, the man decided to take extreme measures, and interrupted with words, the vile character tricked the girl into leaving the estate, otherwise no sane person would have met him. Persen continued to yell, his voice almost breaking. The Baron steps back. He no longer feels safe. What is happening is too influential for him. We are talking about someone about whom Palis is well informed. He should not ask unnecessary questions. The Duke blushed. He was too attached to the situation to reason logically. As usual, it was more difficult than it might seem. Not only was Auntie pursuing the lady at every step, but now he had begun to mock her. Finally, the name and surname of the scoundrel were announced. The expression on the other man's face changed. He raised an eyebrow, thinking that everything was right. That Guy and Luna were more than a strange couple. It had to be admitted the girl hadn't returned yet because she didn't have enough money for the trip. Most likely she was staying on the Vincent's territory, and he was there. The man asks to quickly save his precious friend. But even here, he is stopped in the middle of the story the girl's father believed. But now he is sure that the one standing in front of him is very wrong. The beauty managed to return home. There would be no need to worry about this. The fist clenched from the anger that came in a second wave. The main character quietly asked again, as if he was not able to understand whether what he was told was true. It depended on this. Person promises that they will return, but now he definitely needs to check the veracity of the words. He is not going to put this matter off as he did last time, which allowed Luna to slip away. The Baron stops the boy, assuring him that it can wait. He has some important business with the master. At first, the brunette froze, but then he screamed even louder than before, accusing his father of not caring about his daughter. The baby should always be more important than work. Blue-eyed felt great, if not disappointed. She thought that there really were problems with the contract, but no, the commission from the sales of the intermediary is approximately the same. No special brands were found. The problem was something else. The blonde sat opposite, radiating a light of happiness that showed all the emotions. The brunette addressed him with a slight emotion of anger. If the hero has something to say, it is better to do it as soon as possible. The lady is not able to bear this heavy look. Vincent laughs easily. The woman is so concerned about such trifles that it becomes unclear how she lived to her age without problems. One can say that the hero is happy, but he seems to have been misunderstood. The maid who poured the tea, of course, listens attentively, hoping to hear something good about the mistress's love. It is not clear what is being discussed. In the lady's opinion, she is simply being pierced with a glance, but nothing more. The man takes away the mug of tea, asking once again something more interesting. He wanted to know whether the lady made such a statement because she was truly interested in him or not. Freezing, the brunette with round eyes asks again. She is not sure if it is true or not. There is no point in thinking about it. The green-eyed man did not think that it was strange to ask such a thing. If he finds out, it will help to understand how to treat him correctly in the future. Luna calmed down. She had enough misunderstandings. She would not think about it anymore. Now she would be honest. The woman did what she thought was right, because she tried to convince, as if Persen was not interesting to her. Now the heroine asked for forgiveness for using the name after listening. Vincent nodded in agreement. He clarifies, perhaps the thoughts have not changed a bit. Now everything remains exactly the same. He seems to be pressing, although he looks calm. The girl heard something she didn't expect. Of course, she still thinks that Auntie's is much better than her former friend, who didn't deserve recognition because of his behavior. She gestured with her hands, showing. The young man smiled, looking down in embarrassment. He might be too dangerous to deal with. But the woman realized that looking at his face, it seemed like all the rumors around him were lies. For some reason, Luna remembers the slander that was directed at her. She remembers that in her case, these were also speculations, so that nothing should confuse, so as not to get hung up on the same thing the woman suggests, getting down to business, to what they gathered in the estate for. Perhaps the man will speak about something not quite correctly, but now it does not matter. The blonde clarifies whether Luna wants to meet with him. The question thundered in the silence, forcing the woman at first not to react at all. She did not understand what the question was about. After a few seconds, which was enough to understand the situation, the main character jumped forward and started screaming. Vincent probably did not understand what he was talking about. The young man calmly explains that in fact, he feels some sympathy, which he never had before. Of course, the couple met only recently, but this does not matter as much as it should. Of course, while they are not in such a relationship that the man could find out more information about the girl, this does not stop him. He offers to officially become a new couple. The brunette didn't know what to answer. Now she was even more shocked. She didn't know how they came to this situation. A man would do anything to try to get out of this situation dry. Such behavior was even more annoying. She would have to answer even to this. Throwing aside the flower that the young man had placed in the vase, the blue-eyed woman says briefly that she does not want a union. The blonde man makes a sad expression on his face. For him, this is a rather unexpected answer. He needs to clarify. The woman knows what to say, even to this. With a face like the man's, obviously, there is no point in not confessing your love. He was lying. The expression changed in an instant. The hero nodded in this regard. The lady was right. No more unnecessary questions will arise here. The brunette exhales. She leans back on the sofa. People like aunties, when they try to achieve something, do it exclusively with the help of their face, without even noticing any other options. When something like this is repeated over and over again, it becomes noticeable. Then it's clear anyway. The blonde laughed lightly. Other people seemed to be quite happy with this. Luna was the first to notice that something was wrong. The reaction was again unpleasant. The girl was tired of being bragged about her beauty in any case. The fact that the lady liked the man was true, so he decided to make such an offer. Blue-eyed is asked to think again. It wouldn't hurt her. The girl asks again. She remains skeptical. People misunderstand what is happening between her and Persen. They give false signs with their friendship. The Duke mentions the girl every now and then, so the misunderstandings will never end. The heroine quickly understood what was going on. Persen came to Vincent's estate to find a friend. The man asked the scoundrel to give in regarding his precious friend, and tried to press until the very end, believing that this was somehow the right step. Having chosen the perfect moment, the guy sitting opposite extended his hand to his heart, proposing to become official lovers. He had managed to come up with a plan. It seemed ideal. There were no flaws. It's best to cover up the rumors with a bigger scandal, thus forcing others to buy into it. After all, Luna won't change anything from this. She'll just try. The woman is cautious. She still doesn't understand what benefit this will bring to Vincent. For a second, the hero pretended to be thinking, however quickly. Turning around, he made a sweet face. Everything is done only for the sake of the relatives of the happiness of dating the lady, but nothing more. The woman narrowed her eyes. I understand that you are not going to answer, she stated. Jokes don't work either. It might seem even more annoying, but the young man will have no other options. After all, he is powerless. They were distracted from the conversation. The sound of hooves was heard outside the window. Someone arrived. The woman assumed that her father had blown up the house earlier than he had promised, and she immediately jumped up from her seat. The conversation would be finished later, and now she would need to go down because the heroine absolutely had to introduce the man to the Baron, and he would take over the management of the gold mine. Before actually heading down, Luna leaned towards her friend's ear to simply tell him something important. She had a request. It was quite simple in front of Pales. You should control yourself, not talk nonsense, and most importantly, use formal speech. The blonde pretended to be surprised, and then asked what exactly the lady meant. Obviously, the man really only knows how to communicate informally. Her father's status is ignored so much that it shows such disrespect. Now it was clear what was going on. The young man smiled, trying to be charming. He promised that he would be polite to the Baron. Vincent had not yet heard the answer to his question, so he did not want to fall flat on his face in case everything ended well. The woman screams, forcing him to promise that they will not talk about confession. It is better to be polite, but no more servants are watching the couple from around the corner. The man was mistaken for the mistress's young man. They think that if everything continues like this, the girl will get married. Luna comes down and greets Plea with a smile. She immediately asked how the journey went, but did not receive an answer because he was interrupted in mid-sentence cries. Calling the lady by name came from somewhere near the carriage, causing him to startle. The main character jumped out of the carriage. He looks a little crazy. His eyes sparkle with a strange fire. The woman asks why Persine came too. It's good that she is safe. His face immediately changed, and a smile was reflected on it. However, not for long, because the man turned to Auntie standing behind him. The Duke pointed his finger at the blonde man on the way home. The young man was talking about this very man. He is the most vile one, and Pales meets him. The blue-eyed woman asks why the words sound so offensive, and at the same time burdensome. The situation needed to be saved. The main character volunteered without a word. He steps forward respectfully, bowing his head in greeting. The man says his name and what family he comes from. He is sorry that the situation ended exactly like this, revealing himself. Not in the best light, the blonde did not want to come, while the Baron was not in the house. The green-eyed man explained all the details in a few words. He is the owner of the Antares Alliance, where they help Luna with the gold mining business. The Baron did not even find the words. His eyes lit up with joy. His attentiveness made his heart melt. The brunette nods actively, showing his positive position. He hopes that the man does not feel uncomfortable in their dilapidated estate. Luna froze in surprise. Now she does not believe that her friend really knew how to communicate only informally. Persine intervened in the conversation again. He asks questions about the gold, not understanding what was going on. Antares' eyes flashed in which mockery was visible. He thought that he and Lady Pals were friends, but it seems that she did not tell anything. The contract was concluded. There is no point in interfering. It will not help anymore. The Duke grits his teeth. The innocent Luna and her father have been tricked into believing the Baron can't take it anymore. He turns around, asking what kind of disrespectful treatment of an honored guest. Rodrian seems even more insane as he throws his hand away, asking if the old man is in his right mind. No matter how bad things are in the estate, it does not mean that it is allowed to trust just anyone. Pales, who was standing aside, could not stand it either. She orders to watch his language before going far away. The young man is obliged to apologize. Luna won't listen to what the only madman tells her. They have a squabble. The Baron steps back. He doesn't understand anything. Everything is mixed up. Just a few days ago, the three were having lunch together. It seemed that the friends had a good relationship. The situation turned out the opposite. Rodrian was always a kind and good person. They should have remained best friends. The epiphany came in a moment. The Baron was the one who could not face reality. He was the strange man who thought about the best until the last moment, his head in the fog, as if someone made him believe. It was time to stop the swearing. That was enough. The brunette stepped forward, forcing the man to shut up. Shamelessness in front of a guest was unacceptable all this time. Auntie stood to the side and could not utter a word. Pales puts his hand on his daughter's shoulder, moving her a little further, helping her to calm down. Of course, the hero could have tolerated such behavior towards himself. Insults are familiar to him, but to ignore when it comes to the moon is perhaps too much. There is no other way to put it. Nothing will happen if those two really love each other. Pals reminds that his daughter's affairs do not concern Persine. The brunette gets a new wave of anger, which is almost impossible to contain. He rushes forward, asking if those around him know what that man did. The moon belongs to him. The moment dragged on. No one had time to react or stop Auntie's hand, which suddenly crashed right into the jaw of the brunette, standing behind her. The blue-eyed girl did not know what to say. She herself would not have minded teaching her friend a lesson, but it was done for her in a more cruel way, which seemed effective. Vincent always knew that the Duke was a little out of his mind. It was noticeable in his actions, and not only, but he could not imagine that everything would be so bad. The man makes him get up from the ground. If even one nasty thing is said towards Pales, the head of the guild will make him beg for death. Kneeling down, the brunette carefully puts his hand to his cheek, on which there was a bright red mark from his hand. He did not learn his lesson, so he turns to his friend, forcing her to see. This is the true face of the young man. Luna was fooled. She should come to her senses. The woman was silent. She was choosing the right words and letting him finish it. seemed that even the blow did not bring him to his senses. And this is really sad. He will have to get his hands dirty. Pales comes very close, looking down at his former friend. She says the cherished phrase, "I hate you." Finally, they made him understand what was what, not this time. It is not clear how many times the same thing will have to be repeated, just to get it all into your head. The man seems to not want to remember. It is difficult for him. The girl does not want to know anything about him, because she does not see any point in it. Again, a quiet voice is heard, trying to remind her that they are still childhood friends. But the lady does not listen to it in front of her, is a rude, tactless, and selfish man. No matter how much she says, he still cannot understand that he is crazy. Friends are treated calmly, with sincere love and care. But this is not the case. Luna is not considered the property of the Duke. She is irritated by his attitude, looking with an incinerating gaze the main character orders, to get out of her sight as far as possible. The carriage left. Vincent approaches, the lady expressing his gratitude for the work done. For some reason, the heroine thinks that even this time, the acquaintance did not understand anything at all. Such a quarrel happened not for the first time. Everything has its consequences. The status should have somehow interfered the situation. However, became even more confused. Persan is no different from some people. He behaves incorrectly. After all, the lady should know that her soul has become lighter, because she finally said what she had long wanted to say. The man suggested something unexpected, even for himself. If the guy comes again, the girl has the right to use it as an excuse that will be worthy. There was some special meaning in it. The green-eyed man noticed that Persen was not only feeble-minded as could be seen, but in the end, the young man could be dangerous. No one knew what was going on in his head. It would only be possible to find out in some terrible case when it would be too late to change anything. The woman blushed slightly. She had never been so cared for, especially for the first time from a stranger. She thanked him, but remembered that now she was worried about something else, one might say more interesting. The Duke's heir was punched. It wouldn't go unpunished, so he should think twice. Vincent snorted right now. Such things probably bothered him the least. If he needed to beat someone up, he could call, because there were no moral principles involved. Still, the situation ended. Well, this is something to be happy about. The lady. Thanks again for everything that was done. Thanks to her friend Rodrian, finally got what he deserved from the beginning. It is nice to realize that everything happened as it should. The reason is true. They distracted him from the conversation. Aunties didn't even have time to finish the sentence he started. The Baron was tired of standing aside and quietly waiting for something from the others. Perhaps it was time for dinner. The Duke had been exhausting the man the whole way, which had taken a lot of his life energy. The blue-eyed girl takes her father's arm and apologizes for not thinking about it beforehand. They walk forward. The lady asks her friend why he stopped. Obviously, he was going to leave without even eating. That would be the wrong thing to do, the blonde guy clarified, not believing that he could really join in while they were spending time with their family. He was given permission. A smile appeared on his face. In fact, the head of the guild was sad that he was being given something that he had never been able to get in his own home. The table was set, all three sat down, and a conversation began on absolutely diverse topics. The Baron is happy that they finally explained to him what happened not long ago when Luna was away. He probably completely misunderstood everything when he heard that the two spent several days and nights together all this time. They were engaged in mining the guest sitting next to him. Nods. He would definitely explain everything, so that there would be no misunderstandings after all. In front of him is the father of one of the important clients. The woman takes a sip of the drink, wishing she were anywhere but next to Vincent. He is so calm that she begins to worry. I would like to hope that this state will remain until the very end, because otherwise it will be sad to realize what awaits next. The Imperial Auditor was also on the trip, because it was considered right. The Baron listened and asked again everything that interested him. Of course, he could not stay just like that, but his mood noticeably improved when everything became clear. The brunette smiles. He didn't doubt Vincent. His stories made him learn a little more, and this made him trust him more. The man has a business acumen. It's hard to believe that it occurred to him to do business with the Anters Trade Alliance. Luna remained silent. She decided to just drink and not show it. She is a woman, after all, who should not be interfered with, so it is easier not to show it. Pelez is glad that the two are excellent business partners. But on the other hand, he is a little sorry. The man thought that his daughter finally had a boyfriend who could provide her with a happy future. The phrase made him take his mind off the wine. The woman incinerates the guy with an angry look. If he blurts out even one thing, not as he promised to say, he will get it, so that he will never want to come back. The girl decided to get ahead of the game. She was sorry to disappoint him, but in the end, they weren't dating. Auntie said that he was courting his girlfriend, but she didn't reciprocate his feelings yet. Considering it not the most important thing, not letting him finish his sentence. The woman grabbed the young man by the collar. They would go for a walk before something irreparable happened. It had long since gotten dark outside. The couple was heading forward through the garden. The brunette reminded them that they hadn't finished their conversation yet. She didn't believe that the young man could say something like that, almost ruining the whole situation. Blue-eyed gets even angrier because she realizes that she will have to justify herself, and there is no turning back. Her father has been imagining all sorts of things all day. She does not want to give any more reason for concern. It is better to stay away from any drama and continue living her life. The woman understands that there is no answer turning around. She asks if her interlocutor was listening. The young man threw his jacket over his shoulders and apologized. Today he was not himself. It must be admitted it was worth behaving a little differently. But in the end, everything did not turn out quite right. Luna doesn't even have the strength left to be fully angry. She feels something. But what exactly? Of course she can't say. The friend really does it so unexpectedly that it seems as if he is not going to do anything at all. It's good that, thanks to him, they managed to get rid of Persin. It's time to slow down, be a little softer. Again, the two met eyes directly. The man jokes, asking why he is looking at him like that. The contact makes one shy. Keeping one's mouth shut is the most important thing at this moment. Then one will be able to go the whole way calmly without unnecessary problems. Still, the lady can't help but lean over and give her the right compliment. Even though the young man didn't behave quite correctly at the table that evening, it doesn't mean that everything was so bad. The woman thinks he was incredible. The green-eyed man immediately understood what was going on and offered to sit down. The alcohol clearly went to the lady's head. Throwing her head back, the beauty carefully examines the starry sky. After a couple of minutes of silence, she asks the question that interests her. She would like to understand why the man lied. He must have had some reason. As it turned out, Vincent can be quite polite and calm, but in this case there was no point in looking for excuses for the fact that he does not know how to communicate formally. The answer did not follow immediately, but was quite correct in its number. The young man decided to answer honestly. At least this time, he had to stay in shape. At first, he just wanted to have fun. He had no intentions. The woman expected something like this, but that didn't make the answer any less annoying. The hero hadn't had anyone around him for a long time with whom he could be polite. Luna was sincerely asked to forgive what happened. The girl snorts extremely displeasedly. Turning away, she asks to get used to communicating more formally, and if a friend wants to look good, it is better to try to think about something other than his beauty. Nodding, the hero promises that he will keep it in mind. The girl casts a last furtive glance at Auntie's before completely immersing herself in her thoughts. There are rumors about the man that he is a psychopath, but the guy thinks more sensibly than everyone else. He actually has no shortcomings that could be taken into account. Such a person has no equal. He seems unique, and therefore attracts even more attention from the outside. Unfortunately, it is difficult for the lady to understand why everything was so strange in the original. She does not understand why Vincent so ineptly lost to Persin, who looks very pathetic in this reality. In the original story, Auntie was a villain who opposes the main character, Persin. His defeat in the struggle for power in the duchy, and his subsequent expulsion from the family, where he was forced to take his father's place, were somehow connected, dragged along with themselves, only in thoughts. What happened became the trigger for the emergence of a strong feeling of inferiority in Rodrian. As a result, Auntie, overcome with anger, continued to commit terrible acts. Each of them was distinguished by its cruelty towards other people, and not only. Fate itself predicts a terrible death for the villain. He initially had no chance to be happy. Luna looks sadly at her friend. The more she learns about him, the more she wonders. The man does not resemble that character from the novel at all. He is too good. The green-eyed one is so different that it gets worse with each passing moment. Perhaps he is just like the character Luna, who went down a different path because of the new soul. The woman assumes that he is different from the original, in which case it is true. At least now, it seems that the guy does not look like a crazy psychopath. A calm voice that calls Milady breaks away from his thoughts. The face immediately turns red, while the brunette asks again. She is asked not to move. Her hands reach for her chin. The brunette thought that now she would finally be kissed. This moment really made her believe in something that was not really happening. The man adjusted his scarf, making it so that it was not so cold getting up from the bench. He says that it is time to go inside. After all, it is already night. It has become colder than during the day. The Baron must be worried he shouldn't be left completely alone. The blue-eyed girl begins to curse herself for her stupid thoughts, not understanding how she could think about something like that when everything was obvious. The girl nodded, getting up after him. There are so many thoughts in her head that it is hard to cope with them. The heroine convinces herself that it has nothing to do with it, although it is so obvious what is what and how it is connected. In fact, she is so ashamed that it is better to go home and fall asleep moving along the alley. She reminds that she is not drunk and asks to let go of her hand. They will still see if it will be possible to be charmed by a beautiful face again. Duchess Rodrian was busy with her important papers, as usual, as it was getting dark outside. She couldn't help but notice that her son was late. The maid was asked to convey one wish to the master. As soon as he returned, it was worth visiting his mother. The maid nodded. She never refused to carry out orders. The young man was still not there, but for some reason, Lady Granada arrived. The woman raised an eyebrow in displeasure, not understanding what was going on at such a late hour. It was better to be at home and not to travel around other people's estates. The Duchess comes out into the hall to meet the guest. The blonde bowed her head as soon as she saw her future mother-in-law. She introduced herself again, because these two had not seen each other for a long time. It was obvious that the conversation would not be as favorable as possible. The brunette repeated her thoughts out loud. Milady had arrived without warning. Something very important must have happened to her for this to be interrupted. The woman asked for forgiveness. She had not been able to see the gentleman for a long time. She had not even heard any news. The girl only wanted to know if Persenne was at home. As it turned out, no. The aristocrat informs that her son went to the Baron's estate that morning. Apparently, without saying anything upon hearing the news, the lady froze. A crazy note appeared in her eyes. Falling to her knees, the heroine lowered her head. All this news made her upset even more than it should be. Persenne's mother noted that since the lady had come such a long way, she had a reason for it. It seemed that something had happened between them. This also mattered. The maid sat down next to the mistress, gently stroking her shoulder. She asked if she was okay. First, she should calm down and speak slowly, explaining the whole situation that had developed. The woman was helped to get up and sit on the sofa. Persenne's mother asked the staff to pour tea and prepare everything. Rodrian, as it turned out, very soon did not keep the promise he made to his future wife. And every day, he ran behind her back to Palace, thinking that there was no problem in this. The young man caused Sarah a lot of worries that worried her to this day. As a parent, the Duchess is extremely ashamed. She experiences feelings that cannot be described in words. Despite this, the thought that the lady could take Persenne away and use him simply does not fit in her head. It feels like this is too much. Granada is the bride she shouldn't worry about. This attempts to calm her down don't work completely. Unfortunately, it's sad. The blonde explains what the problem is. Luna continues to cling to Persenne without any shame, who already has a lover. Without letting him finish his fiery speech, the woman continued her story. She knows very well what rumors are circulating in high society, but the allegations are as groundless as the rumors. Alas, it does not have the same meaning. I do not remember Luna ordering a friend to stop seeing his fiancée. Granada was not a witness to their romance, which was stormy and breaking all boundaries. The green-eyed woman understands that her son offended Sarah a little, But now she is no different from all those people who spread only speculation and slander, relying only on their emotions and not observing anything around them. After what was said, the woman tried to soften the situation with what she would say she did not want to hurt in any way. With her words, it was for the purpose of explanation. Obviously, even this does not really help, because in the end, Granada does not hold back and starts screaming with all her might, trying to show herself from the other side. The Duchess does not understand that the reason why Persen began to behave differently is something else. Luna is planning something sinister, and over time she will be able to make it come true, which will only worsen the situation as a whole. She is afraid to even think about the future in such a framework. The woman's eyes flashed as she asked why her son's fiancé had decided to raise her voice, trying to shout down her. It was clear that Sarah was extremely upset. It was disappointing to see her in such a state. In fact, she deserved better than what was now revealed to her. The blonde herself does not realize how blinded she is by envy. Instead of thinking rationally, she says caustic things to such an extent that Rodrian wonders if it is really worth entering into this marriage. She does not know if there will be any benefit in it. The woman's body shakes from rage. Something inside has turned over. Lowering her head into her palms, the girl bursts into tears. Perhaps she was trying to manipulate or was actually experiencing some kind of mental trauma. It was already unclear. The Duchess exhales. She understands that she seems to have gone too far, so she asks to calm down. Everything stopped when the maid announced that the young master had arrived. The blonde jumped up from the sofa, asking where exactly Persen was. She had to see him as soon as possible and figure out what to do next. The maid stopped the lady. Of course, one could misunderstand, but the man wished that no one would disturb him. He needed silence at least for a little while. The green-eyed girl looks ahead in horror. She can't believe that everything is again because of pals. She doesn't deserve to have so much drama around her. Of course, the heroine didn't listen. She rushed from the place before anyone could stop her. The Duchess screamed after her, but nothing helped. It was already too late. Granada burst into the chambers of her future husband, turning around. The brunette looked at the woman. Only emptiness was reflected in his eyes. It immediately became noticeable that her lip was split, and there was a bright red light on her cheek. The girl fell to her knees, asking what happened. She should be carefully helped so that it would not be so painful. Scars could remain if not treated. The hand abruptly knocked Granada's palm away. The guy had already spoken, but he wanted to be alone. This time would help him relax a little. Now was not the time to think about it. Rodrian was muttering something about Luna again. She had become the lover of someone incomprehensible, and it was believed that this was wrong, so it was imperative to try to save her as soon as possible. While the man continues in the same spirit, the blonde moves away, not understanding what she did wrong. Everything ended completely wrong. She did not plan this initially, so she does not understand why nothing helps. There are a million thoughts in her head. They entangle her. Mr. Persen is Sarah's fiancé. He is not meant for Luna. It became scary to think that the hero will never change and will eventually choose his friend. The Duchess blames only her daughter-in-law. However, she did nothing wrong. She was just trying to get sincere recognition from others. If it weren't for the moon, the girl realizes that she would actually be happy. Pales deserves all the hatred that the main character directs at her. Granada wants the lady to know the truth. The Duchess entered the room. Granada is taking too much liberty. Whatever he is barging in is the worst thing. The woman asks for forgiveness. She admitted that she had not behaved very politely today. She had behaved rudely. She had made Persen feel so bad that it was time to leave. Smiling, the lady wishes good night. Her eyes are crazy. The boy's mother feels uneasy. She turns to the figure that is moving forward somewhere down the corridor. The heroine instantly became a different person. The sensations were not the most pleasant. For sure, the Duchess did not dare to say anything. Perhaps she just imagined it, or maybe not. The woman went to the carriage. She asks to take her to the Granada estate, because some questions have arisen. The blonde nodded, but could not help but notice something else. The man can only imagine what kind of relationship Luna has with that man's fiancé. No one understands how cruel she can be. In fact, the young man never met with Lady Granada. Despite this, the hero knows that there is a rumor about her that she is a talented and kind girl. The brunette thought so too. Everything depended on what she did. Of course, at first, the girl was not hostile towards her friend, before it seemed that they were on good terms. As it became clear later, she only wanted to do harm. Now the lady is interested in what's what, and she wants to get to the bottom of the truth. The brunette doesn't understand whether the lady was hostile from the beginning or whether everything changed because of the relationship with Persen. The blonde asks if this is true. If the heroine really insulted her friend, she should definitely get paid back. Vincent promises that he will protect the lady himself and make sure that everything is fine. Even if something doesn't work out, there's no need to worry, the man will always be on the side of his friend. Bowing his head, the blue-eyed one, sincerely, thanks, she's pleased. The girl hasn't heard such words for a long time, and it's very awkward. After all, she has nothing against it. On the contrary, she would like to receive a good attitude. The woman looks around now that she has arrived at the place. She realized that she is worried, because the house is actually luxurious. The butler clarifies the identity, obviously in front of him, is the one who planned the visit. They are about to take the heroine inside the house. The blonde stopped them. He believes that the girl can handle it alone, but if she needs help, she can always call. The blue-eyed girl asked not to worry. She was not as simple as she seemed. The butler led the beauty into the room, to Madame Granada. The man decided to leave the guest next to Sarah, so that they could talk calmly. The last time they broke up was just terrible. It was worth changing everything a little. It seemed that the blonde would shoot the beauty as soon as she saw her. Perhaps she was unwell. Since she was silent, clearing her throat, the woman greeted her, but they asked her the reason for her visit. The heroine does not understand what happened. She remembers that she notified that she would arrive. The brunette thought that something had changed, so she asks directly, hoping for an answer. Perhaps it was worth getting straight to the point. She came to finish everything as quickly as possible. The blue-eyed girl didn't have time to finish speaking before Granada fell to the floor unconscious. The heroine sat down next to her and asked if everything was okay. The green-eyed girl held her head, repeating that she should only feel hatred, but nothing more. The woman screams, trying to reach Sarah, and begs her to wake up. Her eyes are no longer cloudy. The beauty asks what is happening and why she is sitting below. Blue-eyed reminds that she said hello. She doesn't think that's right. Realizing who is in front of her, the heroine freezes. Everything seems to be in a fog. It gets worse. The woman screams, asking to remove her dirty hands, and accusing them, apparently, that they came to mock the lady, because Persen abandoned her, believing that it would be better for everyone. Now it became clear what was going on. The ex-girlfriend didn't even listen to what she was saying. She was completely absorbed in her own delusions. She had seen Sarah like that before. Thanks to Persen and Lady Florrie, the beauty understands perfectly well that it is useless to say anything to such a person. Looking into her purse, the heroine says that she has something. Recently, a girl reproached him with money and threw it in his face, asking him not to come near his fiancée anymore. The girl returned the money in double the amount. The brunette asks to go about her own life, and at the same time, stop bothering Luna. Perhaps Granada has no time for this, but she shouldn't ruin other people's lives either. The green-eyed woman screams. She is furious. The woman asks to tell it like it is, to tell her that she is going to secretly meet with Persen again and interfere with his personal life. It seems that Granada is waiting like a girl. She will do all this, and she forces herself to believe it. If the brunette says something else, they still won't listen to her. She doesn't want to waste time and is going to leave. The money has been returned. Now there is only hope that they will never meet again. Sarah does not understand how she ended up in this situation. She is really scared. The blonde doesn't want her love to be taken away from her. This won't happen. The woman understands that she should feel only pure hatred towards Luna. Running out into the corridor, the heroine orders the knights to grab the girl who just came out. Luna runs ahead completely, not understanding how it all ended like this. Right near the exit, someone puts a hand on his head, gently stroking it. Vincent is happy that he decided to go out to the meeting. It's better to leave the security to him. The young man takes care of everything, stepping forward. He skillfully dodges the sword. The knights are too slow, do not have time to fight back, and receive in response. A few moments later, half of the squad was lying on the floor. The green-eyed man was looking straight at Sarah. Apparently, this was the strange way they greeted guests at her estate. Fear splashes in the heroine's eyes. She understands that in front of her is Auntie's. In any case, it doesn't matter to him who he is. They have unfinished business that is worth attention. The woman quickly decided that she needed to act. She pointed her finger at the moon, shouting that she had somehow insulted hurting the soul. It was not true, but there was hope that they would believe her. Vincent doesn't fall for such simple tricks. Look around, Sarah insults herself, while being confident that it is completely different from what it seems. The young man has figured everything out. Throwing aside the sword he picked up, he suggests leaving. Pales asks about the knights. She is answered with a simple nod. The main event of that day is something else. The psychopath Aunties carried out the massacre alone. You will definitely want to think about this. There is nothing to worry about. The woman runs after the man to ask something else. She has no more business in the estate, but that is not quite what it is connected with. The blue-eyed girl is slightly embarrassed. It seems that these words are difficult for her. She is going to express her gratitude right now. Of course, it is better to do it herself, but she is pleased. The man went too far. The beauty had nothing to repay. Alas, he brushed it off. In any case, he didn't need anything. The young man would be on her side no matter what. The two had already gone to the carriage, but the conversation on the same topic dragged on. Obviously, the lady really cares whether those knights were hurt. The reason, naturally, is Lady Granada. Blue Eyes is worried that if things continue like this, Vincent will be labeled a killer. It should be enough for him that he is the crazy psychopath of society. The blonde laughs. He doesn't care about such things. It doesn't matter what high society thinks, even if in the end they hate him even more. He won't lose much from it. I remember that the lady looked confident when she headed inside the estate. Something was bothering her. In fact, she did not feel relieved. There are a huge number of chaotic thoughts in her head. The lady does not know whether she really wanted to arrange such a performance. Now she herself does not understand. In some ways it feels like not enough has happened yet, considering what we've been through over all this time. But it's not over. Luna remembers seeing something that made her doubt. When she saw Sarah's face twist at the words, the girl really felt like a villain, like in the novel. Suddenly, the body was seized with anxiety. Perhaps the maiden chose the wrong path. The beauty hears the words of a man who is trying to cheer her up somehow. The reason Luna feels so terrible is because she judges her own actions based on the opinions of others, not her own. The woman does the same thing for Vincent. The man asks to tell the truth. If in this case everything is so, the blue-eyed woman should understand herself what she really wants. Smiling, the heroine nodded. She promised that she would do everything as best as possible, as soon as possible, in the right way. Thanks to the help, it became a little easier for her to think. Only now has the realization come that there is no reason to be afraid. As if she had to follow the path of the original, Luna will live her life as she wants, because she is not a poor villain. The brunette asks to take her to a place where she can get a carriage. Lately there have been too many distances that are almost impossible to cover without owning a carriage. Father would not refuse the gift. Aunties nodded, promising that he would do so. The lady was worried because she did not understand such subtleties as carriages. But the man in front of her certainly knew about the quirks of high society. Seeing the huge estate, the lady froze. All the joy vanished, as if by magic. It must be admitted that she had already been in this place. Then the owner and she did not get along. When the heroine was looking for a gold mine, the man said that he could be trusted and told her about the Antares squad. But on the spot, Auntie's assistant said that they don't do such things. The green-eyed man knew nothing about what had happened. Their squad does not require any introduction. The woman found out about it. The reaction was unfavorable. Not intending to stay near the guild, the girl quickly rushes off, suggesting to go somewhere else. It is obvious that they have run into scammers. What could be worse than that? The blonde stopped her by the arm. She couldn't leave, because they were in the only place where they sold transport for travel. The man asked to show him those who dared to use his name. The girl is already upset after the argument, so she clarifies that according to her friend, there is nothing to worry about, because he is going to resolve this issue carefully and peacefully. The young man would take care of his own affairs, and his girlfriend would take care of hers. That's what they decided. The situation quickly gained momentum when the hero picked up some kind of iron rod. It all came to a head in a matter of moments. The guildmaster sitting on the floor, sobbing, begging to be spared, while Auntie silently examined him. The guys walked in and immediately came across a scene. The same man was working on one of his clients, hinting that they could only trust him since he was the most honest. The man still doesn't fully understand how difficult it is to find mercenaries. If he doesn't sign the contract as soon as possible, he will lose a lot, and it will affect his future. The stranger stutters, but nods, indicating that in that case, he agrees. Luna realized that the atmosphere in this place is somehow strange. Everything seems wrong again. Turning around, she did not find Auntie standing next to her. The leader continues to explain, adding that she will have to pay a small fee. In any case, they only have reliable people. There is no need to worry. The brunette opened his mouth to talk about the place right behind his back. The blonde asked if there would be talk about the Antares squad. It was hard to believe that the man was involved in fraud, even knowing who Vincent was. Stepping back to the apparent safety of the place, the hero explains that he simply wanted to recommend a good place and would never use it for his own gain. Driving the old man into a corner, Auntie throws him to the floor, breaking the table behind him. All the words are a pure lie, from time to time. Geniuses like him appear here. The question is different. The eyes sparkle with a dangerous light. While the young man offers to find out what he did with the scammers, the brunette did not like the idea of demonstrating. He screams, asking for forgiveness. The persuasion worked to somehow pay off the head, provided the most luxurious carriage of all available. Luna, with her mouth open, inspected the decoration. I have to say that it was a blessing that the negotiations ended. Well, a woman can never understand what is going on in a man's head. He didn't even move a muscle during the threats. The man who was ready to pay was left with nothing. Although without problems, he sadly realized that the mercenary could not be found. Pales could not help but show concern because the man looked like her from the past. Smiling, Antes decided to help. He said that if the stranger wanted, he could contact his squad, bring boy a letter from Vincent. They would definitely do him a favor. At other times, the man is much more affectionate and kind to others than one might think, and it begins to seem that he is a completely ordinary person who is no different. In the novel, Auntie's was described exclusively from the negative side. Every time he confuses the girl, nothing can be done about it. Now, everything is changing. If you gradually get to know its good sides, the day will come when all prejudices will be dispelled. I would like to think that this will happen soon. Today, the man helped, so before he left, the girl asks to let her treat her. There is a famous restaurant nearby, which can be reached in 10 minutes. The man decided to say that it would be better, of course, to dine at the Baron's house. The young man really liked the food that was served at the estate the day before. The hero heard that the girl is very perceptive. The friend promises that he will enjoy the day as if it were a date for him. This cannot be unimportant. The lady changed her tune when she met the maids, who thought that her lover had arrived again, and they began to vie with each other to offer ideas for decorating the estate and new dishes. There is no chance to refuse. The girl, sighing, is going to agree to what is offered to her. The lady increasingly relies on help. Ordinary food and serving will do just fine. The young man standing behind agrees. He is satisfied with what is offered. After all, he came without an invitation. The woman herself is imbued with the spirit, so she asks to wait so that she can treat him. Carefully placing his hand on the beauty's palm, the hero declares that he came only to spend more time with Luna. The green-eyed man doesn't understand why the girl doesn't see what he really feels. He's sad that he has to remain silent about his feelings. If this is the case, a simple dinner will be enough. The woman understands that the friend is trying to hold out until tomorrow morning to get closer. The lady asked the man to leave and eat at his home. The cute face comes into play again, making sad eyes. The young man remembers how he helped, and now he, the savior, is abandoned alone. Lola intervened. She asked the lady to watch her language. She shouldn't get excited. One dinner wouldn't change the situation much. On the contrary, it would lift the guy's spirits. The maids will do anything to fix the situation. It is better to dine in a circle of people than to be alone with your thoughts. There was silence in the room until the Duke began to speak. The Baron had never come to him with any requests before, but now it finally appeared. The brunette asks Rodrian to understand correctly. He was interrupted. The interlocutor asks not to interfere with his speech, because he too has already heard rumors that Pales now owns a gold mine. The man always gets the news first, since the Baron has become such a big merchant. Such big news cannot be hidden from his boss or society. Leaving one of the chess pieces, the Duke asks how his subordinate could not report something so important on the very first day he learned about it. If the man had said this earlier, he would have been congratulated from the bottom of his heart. These two had been through a lot. It was a pity that Rodrian had not earned trust. If the Baron had signed a contract with the Duke's people, he could have managed the mine much more effectively. He wanted to thank him, but the hero was interrupted again. The boss asked if they wanted to sell him the gold mine. Everyone would benefit from it. The man bowed his head in gratitude. He could have somehow agreed, but he couldn't, because the mine didn't belong to him, but to his daughter. She deals with all the issues. I interrupt again. The Duke thinks that this way the situation is even better. It is good that if the young lady declares that she was offered an unfair contract because she did not understand anything, she will be able to terminate the contract without entering into litigation. If Plea decides so, then the chief will help resolve all issues with fines. But looking with an unusually angry look, the Baron says that he definitely won't be able to do that. The decision is up to Luna. In his head, the young man is angry. The low-born family showed its colors. Such a task cannot be entrusted to a young girl, but that is exactly how it all ended. The Baron is pathetic and stupid. Rodrian thought that he would quickly fall for it if he was persuaded correctly. It was strange that he began to be stubborn. There is nothing left to do but continue to press until it is all over. The old man begins to laugh, but then remembers what kind of relationship his subordinate had with his wife. They will talk about the gold mines later. The Baron has arrived to report something more important. It is in his interests to leave as soon as possible. He has served the duchy for many years now. He wishes to leave his post. Rodrian didn't believe what he was hearing. The man's daughter asked him to take over the business. Now he should think about his lands and help her in all her endeavors. Pales would be grateful if he was given permission to leave. There was a deathly silence for a minute. Leaving the cup on the table, the brunette nodded. He understood what they wanted from him. It is quite difficult to just up and resign, especially when a successor needs to be determined. The issue will definitely be discussed, but later. The brunette nodded. He was saying goodbye. They would meet again. Silence fell in the room again. The maids knew what would happen next. The owner had anger issues. There are many emotions splashing in his eyes. The man ordered Persan to be brought in, and 5 minutes later, the guy knocked on the door and went inside. The first thing the young man asked was why he had been called, and without giving him a chance to say anything more, the Duke slapped him hard, even causing him to fall to the floor. The hero did not give the command to fall apart, and not have the strength to rise. The voice was raised now. It looked more like an obvious cry with accusations. The gentleman has already said what needs to be done. No more is needed. The conversation turned to increasing the profitability of the cotton market. It turned out that difficulties arose. There the market analysis was also not completed. In that case, the young man probably knows that the Baron's daughter now owns a huge gold mine, which she discovered on her own. In an instant, Rodrian's mood changed. He was in shock. It was obvious that Auntie's was targeting Luna's money and was going to ruin her whole life and future. The father yells at his son. It turns out he knew but did nothing. The bastard can't do what he's told. Because of the guy, the Duke's family lost a gold mine. Bowing his head, the brunette sincerely asks for forgiveness. He is really very sorry and would like to correct the situation. The man decides to give him at least one more chance. Father forces him to go to the Plea's estate no matter what method will be used. But the most important thing is that the mines will belong to the duchy and not to the Baron. Persan decided not to put it off. He went into the man's office. A scarlet spot immediately caught his eye. It was unclear what had happened in just a few days, because it seemed like everything wasn't that bad. Looking up, the young man makes a request. He was upset that they were angry with him, but he still continued to believe in something until the very end. For some reason, the hero always thought that Pele's was the one who would take care of him. The young man remembers the past. Even when he was a child, some moments were more important to him than anything else. When he was little, the boy did not understand what to do. His father often scolded him, and he cowardly ran away to his friend's estate. Luna warmly welcomed the boy, understanding that he needed it. Only thanks to bright memories, the young man was ready to endure bullying in his own home. When visiting, he would die not as an heir with a burden too heavy for his shoulder, but as an ordinary boy. Stepping back, the brunette asks for one request. The man has the strength to help his one more child. At least one more time. This way, everything will be much easier. The hero persistently asks the Baron to transfer to him the right to manage the Pales family's gold mine. He does not justify his actions. Of course, the man does not understand why this is necessary at all and where this topic came from. The boy's father was never as angry as when he found out that the mine was not his. There is only one way to get Persine forgiven, and that is to obtain trading rights to the gold mine. The aristocrat told Rodrian that he had no right to decide. Realizing that the path leads to refusal, the boy falls to his knees, sinking to the floor. He sincerely asks for help. Even if the man is not given everything, there must be at least something there. The hero asks to transfer the rights to sell. If that does not work, then at least part of the spoils. The Baron looks even more frightened. He again asks to get up from the ground. He has repeatedly said that he has no right to decide anything. Luna is in complete control of everything she has. Without showing her crazy look, the man asks to arrange a meeting with the lady. He will arrange everything himself. As powerless as Pales is, he is surely able to convince his own daughter that Auntie has deceived her, and that she is avoiding her friend for no reason. Rodrian continued to press on pity, but then they shouted at him to just stop. The Baron was determined. He had already said no. There was no point in begging further. After so much time spent next to the young man, the hero has long since come to terms with how rude Persine can be, and it is not easy for the blue-eyed one either. He leaves his post and asks not to interfere with him. Getting up, the young man brushes off his clothes. He realized what his answer was. The brunette did not want to go to extreme measures, but even the one who was considered a good person refused him. Stopping at the door, the man asks to sign a contract or arrange a meeting with his daughter. Until he answers, the boy will not allow him to leave the estate. Luna herself is still next to Vincent. The lady knew that everything would end like this, and now the morning looks as if she is a guest in his estate. Blue-eyed is worried about where her father is. He still hasn't arrived. There could have been an accident because of the old cart or something even worse. The maid arrived just in time. Lola said that a letter had arrived from the Rodrian estate. It seemed to have been sent by the Baron. The girl reads the message was sent by the butler Gillian. It turned out that Pales is at Persine's house, but he is fine, feels well, and will come as soon as he can. Instead of reducing the level of anxiety, the woman worries even more. The beauty is going to her former friend Vincent will go to his place. It will also be easier. The blonde refused. He was going with Luna. She might need help at the most necessary moment. Safety is more important than anything else. Throwing on a cape, the hero suggests that they quickly go to the estate. The woman hopes that nothing will happen, but they will only see when they check everything twice themselves. Half an hour later, the carriage arrived at the place. The two were sitting on the sofa in front of the butler. After reading the letter, he nodded his head in understanding and asked them to wait a little. The green-eyed man immediately understood what was going on. The situation was suspicious. The old man was acting as if he didn't understand anything. The girl's father should be in the estate, but he was nowhere to be seen. It would be nice to know where to go next, to find the man the blonde suggested, looking into the office where the Baron works. The door was locked. Voices were heard from inside the room. Persine sent a letter to Luna. He says that he simply did not find any other way out but to do so. The guy asks to calm down and think carefully. He is worried about the girl, just like her father, carried away by the topic. The young man himself did not notice how the beauty entered. In a split second, the brunette raised her palm and slapped him hard across the face, her eyes glowing with anger as she ordered him to shut his mouth and stay out of the way. Persine should have heard what she was saying. A guy so powerless that he took the Baron hostage. He wasn't satisfied with that unhealthy obsession. This was going beyond all bounds. Without letting her finish the topic, the Duke shouts, "Only Luna is strange. She herself does not understand what she is talking about, and it is a pity that everything turned out this way. They were friends." A single tear runs down his cheek. The guys were once close. For some reason, the girl began to behave coldly. Something has changed. The hero is scared in front of him, is not the one he knew. The boy still remembers his childhood. He sat under a tree in the garden and burst into tears until his friend came up to him and extended a helping hand. The boy stood up. The Duke scolded his son again for some trifle. The girl asked him to wipe his face and raise his head higher, not to show himself to be a real weakling. Person asks for help because he doesn't know how to do a simple task. In response, they yell at him. The brunette reminds him that he is no longer a baby and is able to figure it out on his own. Moon's friend was born into a noble family, which many say dates back to the founding of the empire, and he was the heir of a duke who placed many responsibilities on him. From childhood, the child was subjected to violence under the pretext of discipline. Unable to bear it, he often ran away to the neighboring estate where the baron lived. The two children naturally became friends that day. The young man said probably the most familiar thing he asked the moon to always be near him and not go anywhere. Unfortunately, Person had no other friends. Besides her, and the maid and governess with whom he became close, were almost immediately thrown out. The boy cried uncontrollably, continuing to beg for at least Pails to stay with him, to calm him down a little. The lady agreed and carefully wiped away his tears. Smiling with the kindest smile, the lady suggested that they wash up and then go eat some cake. Her father had specially bought something delicious in case the young man suddenly decided to visit the estate. Now the man does not understand what happened. Thanks to his friend, he was still able to survive those times, and no matter how much she has changed, she still remains his only friend. It is their sensitive relationship that has some hidden meaning, the fact that the lady is next to Auntie's, and the fact that she is trying to fence herself off from friendship is terrible. Person will not leave the situation just like that. Blue-eyed opened her mouth to say something, but she couldn't. She knows well about the suffering of the young man, not only because she read about it in the novel, but also because he was with her in childhood. There is a very obvious reason why the young man is so obsessed with Pails, and it is because he had only one way out. The woman remembers what was meant for her. First, she had to become a villain. Luna's personality was so despised that she then had to die a quiet death, all for the sake of the main character living his brilliant life. The moon does not want to continue to suffer because of some established scenario. She is disgusted to realize what will happen to her. The lady wants to run away somewhere far away. A voice distracted him from his thoughts. Aunties had been listening attentively all this time, and he was actually sickened by what they had said. He asked what to do with Persine next. In an instant, the brunette's gaze acquired crazy shades, even when a person says that he does not want to be near the young man, still insisted this is wrong, at least in Vincent's opinion. Surely the Duke values his friend, but in this case, he can only take one last step. The hero must disappear from her sight and never interfere on the road again. The guy falls to the floor. He never tried to do anything. Aunties wanted to add something else. But the Duchess came through the door, her voice stern as never before. The green-eyed woman heard that Pails had arrived since she was only a guest. It would be better to meet in the living room, the woman should have thought, before causing trouble. The voice wavered as his gaze focused on his son sitting on his lap. The servants whispered many thought that the master had fought and therefore had gotten what he deserved. The man standing next to the chief was seen as Vincent. If this is true, he could be a disgrace to the family. He must have had some important moment to come to the Duke's estate. Luna is worried something happened that she feared like fire. Now the guy is being slandered, and she has no idea how to stop all this. There are many options in her head. Choosing one is almost impossible. Auntie's only wanted to help. He can't be allowed to suffer running forward. The brunette asks everyone present to shut up. Vincent didn't come to threaten. He is the lady's lover. Silence immediately fell in the room. Shock was visible on the faces of those around her. The heroine herself does not understand what exactly she did, but asks herself to calm down. Everything should be fine if she finds another excuse. The head of the guild decides to play along, not understanding what he is doing. Hugging the beauty, he remembers that she had important business, but she could not part with him even for a minute. The hero explains that he could not act differently. Fortunately, it is good that the girl is so attached, because it would be worse if she hated her own man. There was fear in Luna's eyes. She hoped that the situation would not be aggravated. She had already lied too much, but her hopes were in vain. The Duchess promised that she would not ask any more questions. At least one problem was solved successfully. The woman offers to listen to what the reason is, in fact. As Luna already said, the father went to work and did not return for a long time, so she began to worry. The butler was afraid of what would happen next. He cleared his throat and began to talk about the misunderstanding that had happened. He wrote in the letter that nothing had happened. The Baron comes forward, denying that he is on the estate voluntarily. In the evening, the gentleman came to the office. He said that the man would not be able to leave until what he demanded was done. Pales begged to be released, but as you can see, he remained in the house. It is impossible to call the detention a voluntary choice. It sounds too real. The Duchess understood. She asked for forgiveness. Later, they would agree on a time to discuss again what had happened and come to some kind of peace agreement. As a mother, the girl is worried about her son's condition, so she cannot fully feel guilty. As she leaves the door, Luna turns around for the last time. The Baron is helped into the carriage on the street. He is a little tired. It is unclear how imprisonment affects the psyche, but one wants to hope that everything will end well. The beauty promises that she will definitely punish Persen. He had no right to act so terribly. The green-eyed man watches from the side. The lady has returned to her usual state. The hero asks if Luna has figured out what she will do after what happened. It was clearly an illegal detention of a person. A complaint can be filed with the duchy and later, but the arguments will not be as effective. Rodrian may not admit his mistake, and on the contrary, falsely accuse others. It is common for their family to do something like this as a rule. It always ends favorably. It would be a good idea to prepare Auntie's promises that he will call his lawyer friend. He will help sort out all the problems and conclude an agreement between the parties. Blue-eyed nodded. Now it was her turn to speak. She didn't think. When she blurted out that she was dating Vincent, she was just afraid that there might be misunderstandings. The brunette understands that she has made the situation worse, but in a different way. The woman says that she will definitely take responsibility and do everything to ensure that problems do not arise. The young man smiles, clarifying what will happen if the beauty cannot fulfill her plan, repeating that they are truly in love with each other. It will not work out. The Baron distracted her, closed the carriage window, smiling, and said that it would be better to pretend that he was not there, because it would help her to calmly talk to her lover alone. An hour later, Palles finally returned to the estate. The maids were worried because the mistress left with such a serious look, as if something bad had happened. There is more important news. Mr. Auntie's and Luna decided to date officially. Explaining the situation, the brunette can't stop smiling. The girl ran into the room, too late. She asked not to tell anyone anything yet, but her father decided differently. Good news should be shared with everyone. In fact, nothing happened. Suddenly, Emma states that they have little time to prepare a festive reception, but they will do everything in the best possible way. The brunette continues to ask not to do anything. A young man appeared behind him in time. Again making a sad face, he asks if it is true that he is really hated. The woman wants to scream, asking what is being discussed. Now the moon is considered kind, because she responded with mutual feelings, only to avoid making things more painful. The maid decided to correct the situation. In fact, the mistress simply does not know how to express emotions deep down. The lady loves the man very much, although she does not show it. Pales doesn't know what to do. Of course, it would be better to abstract herself, but now she has been assigned to the beloved group. She is not in love. Luna couldn't say that everything said was not true. She just didn't have enough strength. The girls immediately began to have fun, realizing that everything was fine. They had to cook dinner. During the meal, the blonde is told about the heroine's childhood. The woman wants to go home, although she understands that she is on her own territory. She simply cannot bear what is happening. The green-eyed man understood what was going on and smiled. It was precisely because of the kindness of the soul that the girl showed to him that he liked her, and they developed a special relationship. The beauty herself does not want to tell more information. She noticed that it was late, and it was time to go home. The sound of horses' hooves could be heard outside the window. Someone had arrived. A tall man with glasses enters the room. He is pleased to meet you. It turns out that this man is the personal lawyer of the Vincent family. His name is Lawyer Trust. The lady bowed her head. She greeted the man in a few seconds. The brunette was next to her, his eyes sparkling. He asked to come to a peaceful agreement. Although Lawyer has no idea what happened between Milady and Auntie's, it doesn't change anything. He asks to be allowed to compensate for the losses in full, so that there are no misunderstandings. A scroll is handed into the woman's hands while she reads the contents. Trust continues to tell something, interrupted. He is told that there was some kind of error in the calculations. The blonde approaches Pales. She is a client, not a victim. And it's all because of the Duke, about whom everyone already knows everything. Obviously, the lady was not harmed in any way. She won't have to worry about it so much. Lawyer breathes a sigh of relief. He was called so hastily that it seemed as if something terrible had happened. Luna looks suspiciously. The man does not look reliable. Grabbing the girl by the hand, Auntie takes her away, promising that he will introduce her to another lawyer. The brunette does not understand the joke. The gentleman is wrong to say so because he needs help. Even when the young man speaks with a serious expression and everything is clear, Lawyer is not going to leave. There is no other person in the Empire who can cope with Vincent's character. The man moves behind the carriage so that if necessary, he can resist the pressure. He is well aware of his master's nature, and his abilities can be guaranteed because Auntie's recommended him. Smiling, Luna steps forward. If they don't mind, it would be best to discuss everything over dinner. The girl wants to entrust the matter to Trust. The lady is merciful, like no other. The young man promises with all sincerity that he will put his name on the line and do everything possible just to understand how to resolve the situation. After listening, Lawyer chuckled. No matter how you look at it, it was completely obvious that Person was holding the Baron illegally. If you prepare the statement, well, there won't be any problems. The girl is asked not to worry, exhaling, the heroine is happy. She thought that they would end up in court on Pales. Rodrian will be extremely careful. She won't have to worry about that either. Lawyer recalls that he had experience in conducting a similar case. At that time, the gentleman broke all the Duke's bones. The guy wanted to tell more details, but he was stopped. The green-eyed man measured him with a crazy look. Too much had already been said today. If the work was finished, it would be easier to go back to the estate out of sight. Trust laughs. He's just providing enough information that might be useful to the client. Auntie's is too helpless to resist for the first time. The man was unwavering in all situations, but now everything has changed. Looking at how upset he is, the lady feels a huge relief. In any case, the young man remembers that the situation with the court was not out of the ordinary. That time, everything ended well thanks to his outstanding abilities. The Baron was pleased with this arrangement. He thinks that they got a reliable lawyer, so there is nothing more to worry about. After all, Vincent's recommendation was not in vain. The two got along, so they continued talking about how Rodrian suffered at the hands of Auntie's. It would have been wrong to laugh in such a situation, but they did not stop. The glass fell on the floor. The liquid spilled. There was a ringing sound. The blonde says that he is fine and did something like that only by accident without noticing it. Making sad but most importantly calm eyes, the young man notes that he is extremely embarrassed by conversations about how immature he was in the past, when a conflict arose with Rodrian due to a small misunderstanding. The man decided that he had to tie the knot for the sake of the future, even if it meant that he would have to answer for his sins. The blue-eyed girl doesn't understand what her friend is talking about. It's not true. The Baron smiles back. There is a reasonable man in front of him, but he was almost misunderstood. They met recently, but Pales trusts the man very much. Reason number one is, of course, that the daughter is in love with the young man. Lawyer wanted to ask a question, but the gentleman interrupted, offering to drink to the fact that everything ended well. When she drank to two loving hearts, the brunette stopped the owner of the estate to ask if it was true. Today, as it turned out, was the first day for these two, and this is what they were celebrating. Trust fell to the floor unconscious, not understanding why they did this to him without telling the truth. Auntie's was skeptical about this. His acquaintances were always too dramatic. Distracting the lady from the guy, the boss calls her to him. It's time for her to pay attention to him. They have a memorable date. It's worth spending more time, just the two of them. The woman gets angry as soon as Vincent opens his mouth. Every time he says something wrong, it is not at all how a righteous man should behave. The lawyer said that my lady could contact him at any time. Lifting the guy from the floor, she reminded him that she could use this service. The woman is curious to know more details about Auntie's childhood. They tried to stop her, but nothing came of it. The lady has the right to know about her lovers. Blue-eyed smiles, noting that it is actually quite late, so she will have to postpone the story until next time. She also realized that the power is now in her hands. Before Auntie's beloved becomes more curious and can't take it anymore, it's best to finish the meal in complete silence, without any problems that might arise along the way. The gentleman fell silent, lowering his eyes. He nodded, intending to continue eating. Lawyer froze in delight, since the Duke obeyed so quickly. Before them was definitely the Queen. After dinner, the lady went outside to get some fresh air. The fact that she had a lover was more of a reason not to make a fuss. But everything ended up the other way around. The heroine decided to cool down before going off to her fate to report that what happened was a boring performance. Someone appeared behind her and threw a cape over her shoulders. The blonde smiles. He's ready to listen to all the complaints of the beauty. Even if the discontent is connected with him, it does not matter as much as understanding. Having learned what was bothering his friend, the young man nodded. Her family's reaction was strange, but still understandable, because for the Baron, Luna is his only beloved daughter. He admitted that he was actually a little jealous. Blue Eyes doesn't understand why the hero is so obsessed with the idea of dating her. No matter how much the heroine thinks about it, she can't find any benefit for him. The man still wants to have a nice date with the girl he likes. One of the reasons is to see the look on Persan's face when he finds out about everything. The hero has as many complaints as Luna herself. In this, they are very similar. The beauty asks to be told what happened between them. The green-eyed man knows well what situation Peleus is in, but he himself does not tell a single detail about himself. She wants to know more, because she is sure that the man has been through a lot. The blonde was silent, but then he started playing his role again. He is honest when he says that he likes it. When a lady is so persistent, the heroine screams that she didn't say anything like that. The beauty is already teased every time they see her humiliate herself, realizing that this is wrong. The young man still agrees. He will definitely tell everything, but a little later. Morning came. The heroine got out of bed with difficulty. The girl saw the maid and immediately asked if Vincent was at the table. Perhaps he was still sleeping. It turned out that the man left at dawn. Lola offered to stay at the estate, but the guy was busy. He handed over the letter, also apologizing for leaving his friend. The information in the scroll was presented in maximum detail. Something happened at the Duke's house. It was urgent, so he had to go back. The lady could contact lawyer about the problems. Lola smiled. She was back to her usual tricks when she started describing how much young Vincent liked the lady. The girl had a picture in her head of the man being sweet and kind. Auntie's left. But judging by the story on paper, the lawyer is still in the estate. For some reason, the heroine feels uneasy. She understands that something terrible must have happened. The Duke returned to the estate and learned of what had happened there. The butler was aware that Pales had come to find the Baron. They had spoken in raised tones, and young Persan had been slapped on the cheek. The carriage arrived with Vincent. So to prevent the situation from getting worse, the lady asked everyone to leave the house, unable to listen to the end. Rodrian screams. The butler asks for forgiveness for not doing anything. Although he was there when the conflict happened, the head cannot believe that his wife let the offenders go, apparently, all because of her beloved son. Persan is still locked in the room. Patience has run out. The Duke threw his glass of wine at the wall, blaming everyone around him, both the boy and his subordinates. Everyone is to blame. The honor of the Rodrians is being tarnished day after day, and this cannot be ignored. The man ordered to call his lawyer. Obviously, the conversation will not be easy. Half an hour later, the hero entered the office. There were papers on the table, which were moved closer to him, as usual. The situation was terrible. They had reached a dead end, and everything concerned one family. Third-rate animals don't know their place, so they climb wherever they want, and a subordinate is ordered to make them pay for daring to mock the Rodrians. The brunette chuckled. It seems the Baron is not a particularly important person, so this will not be difficult. He asks what punishment his master would prefer. The head of the estate doesn't care what the lawyer chooses. The most important thing is that the Pales family is trampled. Such non-entities should not be confident in themselves. Everything should be the other way around. The man understood, bowing his head. He says that he will definitely fulfill all the demands and do anything just to show his dignity. The next day, a letter arrived from Persan's lawyer on paper. All the arguments that actually seemed wrong were quite clearly laid out. Pales is accused of coming to the estate unannounced, and causing a scandal, then attacking the family heir. And because of her behavior, the Duke's reputation suffered, so the Baron is being sued. The blue-eyed woman is angry. She is disgusted by the behavior of her friend's father. The party claims that the man skipped work without permission, which worsens the situation with the lawsuit. Things are worse than expected, and lawyer guesses who the lawyer is. Polkin will act on behalf of the Rodrians. He usually agrees to any job just to get money. He is known for using dirty methods. Many people's lives were ruined after they lost to him. The Duke is obviously hostile. The girl doesn't know what to do. Their family is still treated coldly. They can't allow themselves to be hated. The beauty is terrified of how everything will end if her reputation gets even worse. Honor can never be bought with money. And this is truly sad to realize. The main character asks, trust what he thinks it is important for her to know if they have a chance. Polkin is difficult to deal with. But this does not mean that it is unrealistic. In the statement, the victim's side deliberately omitted the case of the Baron's illegal detention by the young gentleman. They do not want to bring this fact to the surface. The Pales are participants in the incident. They should definitely shed light on what happened. The problem remains. It all lies in the fact that the Duke got rid of all the evidence and shut the servants' mouths. In any case, there is no other choice but to sue Rodrian to get out of this difficult situation. A statement alone will not be enough. Of course, it would be nice to find evidence. Luna thought about how she would have to behave. The family had destroyed everything they could, and there was no chance of getting witness testimony either. You can't create something that doesn't exist. But it was an idea. Blue-eyed turned to a lawyer. It seems she had a great opportunity. Lawyer promised that he would listen and help with everything that was required of him. The next day, the Pales filed a counterclaim against the Rodrian family, and rumors, of course, spread like wildfire. The Emperor, even he, sent an investigator to confirm some facts. Instead of clearly answering, Polkin spoke about the Baron's absenteeism. The butler became one of those who put the most pressure on the injured party. He spoke of Pales as the most irresponsible person in the whole wide world. The man was considered the one who brought a lot of trouble, and he did not even hand over his responsibilities to anyone considering himself the smartest. Luna was given a letter stating that the Duke's side was planning to demand compensation for damages, including all the little things. Lawyer thought he needed to think of something to help resolve the situation. The lady was angry before she fainted. She needed to be calmed down. Trust arrived to see a friend named Xian. She was asked, "How are you?" But it was immediately clear that the meeting was not scheduled because they wanted to chat. Sitting down at the day, the heroine asks what is Rick's sit-offs. Oh, you're not he will tell about everything in a few words. It all started because of a hyperfeel. This time, the girl is having a hard time. The Duke devotes all his time to the court. They say that he puts off work and spends the whole day next to the lawyer. The person who takes information out of the estate is immediately threatened with death. The woman has never been afraid of being caught, but this time everything is different. Lawyer said he didn't need information this time. He needed a love letter. He took an envelope out of his jacket. All he had to do was send a message and get a reply. Since the message sent does not contain any threats or information, there should be no problems. The woman asked about payment time is running out, and her rates are also changing. The girl said that she wanted to return to her hometown and live there. The beauty was promised to buy a mansion, so that she would not have to worry about anything else. Xian jumps up and exclaims the green-eyed girl did not believe that she was being given something so significant. Obviously, the client was as serious as Rodrian. Lawyer's friend is more suited to the job she is assigned than anyone else. Trust is leading to the lady agreeing she had better think about the answer. The woman decided to say yes that same day. She snuck into the master's room. Rodrian was in a terrible state since the day he was hit. She was going to hurry before he woke up. Xian was unlucky. The voice, very weak, asked, "Who sent the message?" There was nothing left to do but give the letter. It was obvious that the sender was Luna. After reading just a few lines, the brunette begins to smile, holding the piece of paper close to himself. He repeats the same thing. The girl did not leave him. Now they need to meet. Pose will forever remain his only precious friend. The day of the trial arrived unnoticed, and aristocrats from all over the empire flocked to the courtroom to witness the outcome of the scandalous story. Many were on the Duke's side. The Baron's family had never been respected, and if they lost the trial now, the situation would get worse. The Duke's family is considered the most powerful in the entire empire, and Pele's will never be able to resist him. The aristocrats do not understand why a war has begun that they cannot win. Many are completely confused. The representatives of the parties are ready. They look at each other with hostility. The trial begins. The first to come out is lawyer, who will be the first to speak on behalf of Pales, his client. To begin with, the judge decided to listen to the arguments of both sides. Trust begins to tell the story of what is behind the claim. He again needs to explain everything that they wrote about. On the day of the incident, the Baron went to work at Rodrian's estate. The Duke's son looked into his office and said that they needed to talk about something. Of course, the beginning already foreshadowed trouble. The young gentleman collected his thoughts and demanded that the commercial rights to the gold mine, which had recently been discovered on the Baron's territory, be transferred into the hands of his father. The man objected. He replied that all this seemed impossible to him since the contract had already been concluded with other traders. Despite the refusal, the young man repeatedly demanded that he sign the contract that he brought with him. After the explanations, the Baron realized that it was useless to say that the mine belonged to his daughter. The man continued to be pressured until the very end, and when everything ended incorrectly, the gentleman could not contain his anger. The Baron was locked in his own office. In connection with what happened, the Pales side is having a hard time expecting a sincere apology and compensation for moral damages from the Duke's family. The aristocrats began to talk. It is immediately clear that if what was said about the gold is true, the Duke is indignant. It's time for Persen's lawyer to answer, before the young man starts. He wants to say something, and this information will have a big impact on the course of the trial. The fact is that all the statements are outright lies. Polkin is sure that everything that was discussed that day was nothing more than ordinary work topics that could not lead to anger or illegal detention. The judge intervenes. The story sounds strange. It doesn't seem very true that the two stayed up all night just to discuss work tasks. The lawyer found a reason even for that. Whether the reason is that the Baron's work skills are completely inadequate, Pales jumps up, but is asked to shut up. The Duke's arguments at that moment were much more important. Polkin wants to continue. As is known, the Baron worked in the Duke's estate for quite a long time. He did not cope at all. His productivity was so bad that it is difficult to say anything good. Until the quarrel occurred, the man only managed the most basic tasks, such as organizing and copying documents. The aristocrats agreed they understood that if the young man were smarter, he would not have lived in poverty for decades. The lawyer knows what really happened. The gentleman, who had known his subordinate for many years, took pity on him and wanted to teach him at least something. But the old man, not being able to learn quickly, got angry and said that he did not want to do anything. In the end, there was nothing left to do but let the man go to rest. Persen had done all the work that the worker had been delaying. He was tired but still bears responsibility. Instead of thanking the young man for his efforts, the Baron made a vile criminal out of him. The statement in court does not contain a drop of truth. Doubts creep into the heads of even those present. Written statements from the servants of the Duke's house were presented as evidence. The judge carefully examines the papers, realizing that in some sense, everything will end as the master wishes. Subordinates said that the Baron was irresponsible in his duties, and angry cries were often heard from his office. The head turned to Polkan. The testimony should be heard in person, but for some reason, no one came. The argument is stupid, but the maids were afraid that police would be angry. This is all for their safety, and it is better to treat it with understanding, the Baron shouts from his place. That the words are more like absurdity. Lawyer asks to calm down. He understood that dirty methods would be used, and was prepared for this. It is not enough to brazenly give false evidence. The lawyer decided to manipulate feelings in order to catch him. Trust looks at the stands. He can't help but smile. The Baron's side also has an ace up its sleeve. The Duke's house strictly monitored the servants, but it wasn't that difficult to contact Sheen again. The girl wrote a letter of resignation almost immediately after the conversation. The lawyer of the injured party will again parry in order to expose the false testimony of the other party. The young man will provide evidence. The brunette is about to show a letter with confessions from young Rodrian. The man himself is frozen in horror. People in the hall are talking, realizing that the trial is gaining momentum that no one expected. Polkan does not understand what happened. He turns to his leader, asking if this is true. The young man is worried that now the entire wall of protection will crumble like a house of cards. Anger splashes in the brunette's eyes. He immediately understood who betrayed him. Luna could not do this, but decided that she had the right to do so. The judge ordered everyone to be silent. The evidence will be checked. The paper was handed over. The eyes quickly ran over the pages. The man reported that he checked the contents of 4 handwritten letters provided by the Baron's side, and everything was laid out there very clearly. The young man confesses that he went to the office where Pauls worked and asked for the right to trade in the gold mine, despite the fact that a contract had been concluded with another merchant. The demands were not met, and the young man became furious. The gentleman asks to accept an apology for the way he acted. The hero's confession ends with words of sincerity. The Duke's family was lying. It sounded even more ridiculous. On the other hand, if the letter is true, it indicates that the Baron is right. The man hopes that everything will end soon, preferably in his favor. The judge asks to be allowed to ask a question. The appeal is addressed to Rodrian. The man hopes that the addressee will accept the apology and be able to make it so that they can communicate again. The family's lawyer screams that the letter was fabricated. In fact, his man had nothing to do with it while he tries to object. The brunette screams, asking why they did this to him. Luna said that if the young man confessed honestly, she would forgive all the mistakes she promised, that now they would be friends, like in the old days, and she would stop feeling hatred. The eyes reflect the anger again, which in reality will no longer be restrained. Pele's remains with a cold expression. She does not care what they say, because her father's name will be restored. The time had come for the court to make a decision. Both sides had given different accounts of what had happened between the two families, and the statements and evidence had been checked. As a result of the verification, the testimony of the Baron's side was found to be justified. The Duke's side must take responsibility for the incident and pay compensation as soon as possible. The case was so serious that the Emperor sent his own investigator, and given the fact that false testimony had been given in court in order to avoid prosecution, the judge sentenced the family to pay a fine of 1 million gold pieces. As soon as it was all over, there was silence, which didn't last very long. The aristocrats were making noise. Everyone was sure that the court would support the Duke, but they imposed a harsh punishment. The head of the country decided not to side with the Duke, just because he helped found the empire. Rodrian stands under all the gazes, trying not to release all that flow of emotions that has accumulated in his soul. It is believed that the young man committed a disgusting act he should have thought twice. Luna heads to the exit. Everything turned upside down in a moment, because the hero hurries after the girl, asking why she betrayed him. It seemed that they were friends, but in the end, everything ended differently than expected. The girl goes to the guy. She finally heard him, but now she orders him to stop being so noisy. The heroine really betrayed him, but this does not mean that something needs to be done about it. The woman suggests coming to your senses instead of continuing to think the opposite way. The relationship between friends ended long ago. It was all a figment of the imagination. It's time to listen carefully. The maiden did use the Duke, but that was only because, no matter what happened, she would always hate him. People are talking, again, rumors are circulating, that Lady Pelez is throwing herself at the young gentleman. But it turns out that everything is the other way around. Now it is believed that the Duke was the one who told society about the lady's behavior. It was time to disperse. The Pales family went to the carriage. They had done a great job. The case was won brilliantly. The Baron was glad that they stood up for him. The lawyer was the one who did everything right. Lauer smiles. He believes that, on the contrary, there was no merit in it. The man would never have thought that Luna would so cold-bloodedly reject her former friend. The Baron asks to convey his gratitude to Vincent as well. The Duke's family has done so much that he doesn't even know how to repay. Trust was just doing his job, and considers it an important task. For the young man, it will be enough for the master and mistress to love each other until the end of their days, and be happy. The brunette does not know how to react. At the moment, she becomes disgusted. The work is finished anyway. It's time to finally get some rest. The lady wanted to say something else, but she was interrupted. They have a point in their plan about moving. We can't forget about it. The girl was so busy that the lawyer contacted the broker himself. He will find something decent, but first he should go to look at everything. make sure that the options are suitable. It's time to tell the truth. The heroine is happy that she can give her father the home he deserves. It's sad to think that she has to leave the place he loves so much. Only good things will happen in the new house. Luna hopes that they both feel the same. The young man did not know what to answer, so he hugged his daughter, promising that everything will really be as good as possible. The family will live happily ever after. Polkan arrived in the Duke's office. He needed to be told why he lost in court. As it turned out, everything happened because of Lady Pale's letter, which turned out to be a simple trap. The gentleman did not understand that he was being used. Besides, there was a minion of the Baron in the estate. The man was ashamed to fall for the trick. For this, he asks for forgiveness. Then all that remains is to wait for a decision. Exhaling with a hint of anger, the hero says that in any case, what's done is done. There's no point in explaining, so the lawyer had better leave. Nodding, the young man quickly closed the door behind him. Rodrian is thinking about something else entirely. His subordinate was stupid. He got away with his mistake too easily. Jillian was called to ask about Persen. The boy is locked in a room and is extremely shocked by the outcome of the trial. Previously, the young man lay there indifferently, not intending to do anything, but now he doesn't let anyone near him. The brunette screams and smashes everything around him, realizing that the girl put him there. The Duke understands that everything is correct. He thought about what to do with his son when he was running after the girl. But it seems that he will finally come to his senses. The heir will be able to be raised properly. It will be right. The butler was ordered to continue to look after the master and report on his condition, and the servants would also be kept an eye on, so that not a drop of information would leak out. The chief nodded, but he hadn't finished yet. He wanted to talk about the lawyer who had ruined everything for the fact that the man dared to tarnish the Rodrian family. He would have to pay with his life. There is silence in the room, and the only thing you can hear is the boy repeating the name of his ex-girlfriend. Torn photographs of the girl are scattered around the room. He will never forgive her for anything. The Duchess came to the door. She asks if her son is okay. Of course there was no answer, which was upsetting. Jillian came with a message from the woman's husband. She needs to know something. As it turned out, the chief ordered not to give the boy even a glass of water until he himself left the room. In general, it is clear what this was, for the boy's condition will continue to be monitored, and he himself will want to leave. Half an hour later, a maid came into the hall. They said that the mistress had called her. The girl had an urgent request. She moved a case forward onto the table, which resembled a place where an ancient relic was kept. The woman shows a beautiful brooch, worth half a good estate. All the Duchess asks is to bring food and water to her son at any convenient moment. This means that she will go against the master's orders, so she must make sure that no one notices anything. The beauty was not sure that it would be right to do exactly this, but she could not refuse. She could be relied upon. Everything would be done in the best possible way. In fact, the Duchess is almost in despair. She understands that it will be difficult to cope with her husband's morals, but she will try to do everything to ensure that the situation ends well. After the trial that shook the entire empire, news of the Duke's defeat quickly spread through high society, and the corruption and behavior in the courtroom were not made public as a way to save the last bit of dignity. As often happens with scandalous rumors, they were passed from mouth to mouth through family and friends. The rumors, of course, reached the lady who loves gossip with all her heart. Her name is Rosemary Vincent. The girl looks great. Everyone knows about it. Her elegant behavior and excellent manner of speech suit her image. The lady is considered a rising star of society. In addition, the lady is considered the official heir of the Marquis Vincent, who became famous thanks to maritime trade. She was called Ideal, and she only strengthened her position. The maid came to the mistress to inform her that it was time for an economics lesson that could not be missed. The woman nodded. She remembered this, so she did not resist. In fact, she was extremely bored. The heiress always had a variety of lessons. Other girls were probably having fun at receptions, and she was sitting and studying. The woman was sad that she had to be stuck in the estate in such good weather, and she would also have to listen to tiresome lectures. Everything happened because of Auntie's. He was to blame for everything. Initially, Rosemary had an older brother. They counted on the guy, but he had long since left his father's house because of the kind of nature he had. And not only everything was so confusing that the sister did not figure it out. The place of the heir passed to the Marquis's daughter, and she accepted it, gritting her teeth. The girl understood how it would all end, but she also had no right to resist, because she had agreed in advance. Along with the heavy burden on the lady's shoulders, there was also the burden of surpassing the Rodrian duchy, and they were in a constant rivalry that never ended. People envy the fact that the lady has no competition to become the head of the family, but these are just sweet words that do not have much meaning behind them. All her life, the little girl looked at her peers, and again envied what they had. The girl wanted to buy beautiful dresses and cakes, wanted to have fun, and have fun with her friends, and not study all day long. Walking forward along the corridor, she always looked out the window at the beautiful trees and the changing seasons. Sometimes thoughts flashed through her head, asking what was happening outside. The lady did not even want to be as free as her brother. She was just looking for something exciting. Now the blonde got what she wanted. She listened to her friend tell a new piece of gossip that overshadowed everything else. The brunette laughed, noticing that the Marquise had not had such an interested face for a long time. The confession letter that was sent to the court served as important evidence, and in the end, the Duke's family lost the case miserably, with everyone there whispering and unable to believe it. For some reason, as soon as the results were announced, there was an outburst. Mr. Person pounced on Pales and began to shower her with curses. The spectacle was truly incredible. Rosemary groans. She remembers that the rumors about Luna were exclusively negative. It turns out that she was not trying to hang around the heir, but on the contrary, it turned out that there was also louder news. It was interesting why Rodrian was so vile. It turns out he was trying to deal with Pale's lover. The girl should have been shocked by this news, but usually she doesn't like love affairs. A friend asks to guess who is the man to whom the lady gave her heart. The blonde asks without much enthusiasm and expects another uninteresting disappointment. When the maiden said the name Aunties, the heroine even choked on the tea that was in the mug. Jumping up from her seat, the beauty asks again, "In the Empire, there is only one family with the surname Aunties." The brunette also stood up and said that it was time to leave. After all, she still had a list of people to tell interesting news to. The blue-eyed girl did not have time to stop her. Rosemary was left alone with her thoughts. She couldn't believe that her brother had a lover. The boy was hardly capable of loving anyone. He had never been distinguished by his intelligence or kind heart. The lady desperately called the butler William. The man came running, asking what happened. The beauty did not care what happened with her studies. A more serious problem had appeared. After the servant had listened to everything, he left, not quite understanding how all this was connected. Strange rumors about the Vincent family have always been, and will be. 10 years have already passed since the boy left home. The last thing the old man remembered was not the most favorable. Aunties always mocked Rodrian, not allowing him to give him a proper rebuff. There are rumors that he was even once sued for assault. The butler arrived to meet with lawyer. Even if he is not very interested in the gentleman's personal life, his sister asked to find out the details. Trust is sitting on pins and needles while he is asked about rumors and their veracity. Trying to brush it off, the brunette states that the question seems too delicate to him. One cannot reveal someone's personal life so completely. The lawyer nevertheless agreed to tell the truth, but only at a meeting with the lady sitting next to her. He answers that the speech about love is the pure truth. The woman did not believe it. She was horrified. With every word Pales says, the young man gets confused, starts fidgeting, and Lada tries her best to look good. The heroine became calmer after the confession, but it is still difficult for her to come to her senses. The lady must have used forbidden methods to tame the young man. There is nothing else to say. Lawyer suggested a meeting. The blonde became even more scared in her head. She imagined Luna as a successful person. Trust tries to explain that there is no need to worry about your safety. Pales is a gentle and kind person who is different from Aunties. After the words, the blue-eyed girl even thought about whether she really could go to the meeting. The girl does not know how to choose the right place, but she will think about it. The brunette remembers something. Luna is most interested in moving to a new estate. If the lady puts a suitable house up for sale, it will be possible to meet. The girl wants to meet as soon as possible. She will choose the best house at the cheapest price on the market. The heroine is sure that she is doing the right thing. The beauty clarifies what Luna likes in order to prepare a gift. Lawyer doesn't know what will suit her friend, so she'll have to choose something ordinary. Luna sits silently opposite her father. Finally, she says that for some reason, she feels like a burden. A candidate for the position of secretary should arrive soon. The beauty is a little worried, but tries to change her mind. The lawyer recommended the person, so he must be good. It would be great to have someone who will help. The man can't believe he came to an interview with a noble family. He introduced himself as Thane, remembering the appointed time. The brunette smiles they once met in a carriage shop. The young man is still grateful for the help. Laying out the papers, the lady suggests starting the interview. As it turns out, Thane worked in the mine for about 20 years. In addition to physical work, the man was involved in hiring. He knows how to draw up documents well. Many people think that mining is all there is to it, but it is really the approach that matters. Mining activities require highly qualified specialists, and it is extremely difficult to find such specialists. The owners are thinking, Thane is worried, thinking that now he will be thrown out. The owners hate those who interfere in their affairs. Luna finally tells him about the decision. They listen for a bit, but ask him to come to work tomorrow. The girl spoke seriously. As soon as everything was told, she realized that someone outstanding was in front of her. What touched the Baron's daughter most was that the man was proud of his work. The decision was made without even thinking. Qualified specialists are rare, so the girl will increase her salary exactly 3 times. The man takes the pen. It is his first time working as a secretary, and he lacks a lot, but he will do everything he can to help. The Baron hopes that they will work together. He himself is also doing this for the first time. The head promised that he will work hard. Very soon, he regretted his words. From the first day Thane was busy with training, he only allocated time for rest during sleep. Unfortunately, the Baron felt that she could not keep up with the frantic pace of work. Things were going better for Luna than it might have seemed. His father wouldn't have to worry if he learned everything. The woman also did not have any fun during this time. During her work, she managed to acquire dozens of mountains throughout the empire. The novel doesn't specify the location, but there had to be a diamond mine somewhere. It would only be a matter of time before the location was discovered. The lady is going to leave before the evening. Today, she is finally going to buy a new estate. At the entrance, the lady met Cleo. He promises that he will show every corner of the house that was put up for sale. The assistant found the place that meets the girl's requirements. Everything should not go as badly as expected. The first thing the young man did was take the girl into the garden, where in the spring many flowers bloom, making the estate brighter. Perhaps because the building is new, it looks quite stylish. The atmosphere is as luxurious as in the Duke's estate. Cleo stated the price was too low, which made the maid and mistress begin to doubt. It is impossible that such a beautiful place should cost a penny. Luna will have to figure out the problem. For the previous version of the girl, the price would have been enormous, but times have changed, and any new place would seem beautiful compared to the Baron's house. Blue-Eyed asks to contact the owner of the estate. The girl liked everything, and she wants to sign the contract right away. Cleo doesn't understand what's going on. He suggests looking at other places too, but the lady persistently refuses. The man is worried Lady Vincent ordered to take the beauty to Rose, which was prepared for the guests. Luna shouldn't have chosen the very first option. Obviously, she needs to change her mind somehow, even if it's difficult. Desperate, the young man explains that the other house has a better location and is larger. Pales had to agree. They thanked her for it, and upon learning that the carriage had already arrived, the girl froze in horror. The lady has time, while Cleo shows the lady around, but she is still not mentally ready. When the brunette stepped out of the beautiful carriage, Rosemary was surprised even her scoundrel brother had a taste for aristocrats. The blonde asks herself to calm down. She shouldn't be charmed by just one face. The butler decided to prepare the hall for the reception. The maiden remained at the window. She is trying to understand what people are talking about. The brunette looks around. The only thing she doesn't understand is how roses bloom in such weather. The owner put a lot of effort into building the estate. Now it's clear why Cleo wanted to show it. Rosemary sees that the two are talking about something interesting. The blonde understands that she cannot continue to wait. While Rosemary runs downstairs, the heroine is taken to the greenhouse. It would be great to drink tea there while the roses bloom around. The girl asks how much the estate costs. The owner put it up for 100,000 gold. The house is better than the last one, but costs half as much. It is clear that for such a price, you can only buy flowers. Luna understands that there is some hidden defect inside. Cleo thought it was too much. The hostess had informed him in advance that if he wanted, he could haggle and save a little. Such a wonderful person as Plea has the right to receive a discount of up to 50%. The woman realized that this was definitely a scam. The owner probably doesn't want to go out to Luna because she's poor. The brunette said that she didn't want to make the purchase anymore. The lady asks to finish the viewing and contact the man later to discuss another estate. Luna was confused by the low price. Such a place couldn't cost that little. Rosemary watches everything from the side. For some reason, the three of them started arguing. It's hard to believe that Luna is really as terrible as rumors say about her. The blonde can't miss the opportunity. She will try to do everything right to understand how her brother was tamed. Cleo says there was a slight misunderstanding and apologizes for how things ended. Luna, in response, asks for forgiveness for behaving incorrectly by declaring loud things. The situation is quickly resolved. It doesn't look like Pales was threatening or manipulative. Something else happened, and we'll have to find out all the details. The girls still decided to inspect the house and went to the first building. Rosemary understands that she needs to run away before she is noticed. Blue-Eyed accidentally tripped and fell right on the Baron's daughter. She asked if everything was okay and examined the body for wounds. Vincent promises that she is fine and beaming with happiness. Milady asks to have a cup of tea with her. Sitting down on the sofa, the heroine asks for forgiveness for not showing her best side as the owner of the estate. The beauty seems strangely familiar to the Baroness, her facial features reminiscent of someone not forgotten by her consciousness. When the Marchioness introduced herself, it became clear that she was Auntie's sister. The lady was not an important character in the novel, so now everything came out. The blonde asked about her relationship with her brother. She decided that it was so bad that it would be better to erase it from her mind. The question was a little interesting. Luna was used to being asked about such things, so there was nothing to worry about. Rosemary doesn't understand why there are such rumors about the girl. People must be completely blind. Pales is beautiful and smart. The madman from the Vincent family meets such a person. He is lucky. The girl asked about caring for roses. They are so beautiful that perhaps an ignorant person could ruin everything. The Marquise suggests hiring her people who have been looking after the garden for a long time. They will be useful. The blonde asks for a strange request: to visit the estate from time to time. The blue-eyed one will often visit the beauty. Luna seems like a wonderful person. You definitely need to make friends with her. The brunette did not know what kind of person the Marquis was. Unlike her brother, she was very polite, kind, and attentive. Smiling, the heroine expresses the same desire to become friends. Today will be their first day of friendship. The lady returned from Rosemary's conversational hell 3 hours later. It would have been dangerous to remain a lady any longer. All the energy has been sucked out of the heroine. She needs to go home quickly, to eat a little, and rest. The lady told Lawyer that the meeting went perfectly, although a little tiring. Virgo is younger than Luna, but rich. She is the heiress of the Vincents and has been actively involved in the family's trading activities for a long time. Usually, the first child becomes the new leader, but when Auntie's left, he gave up his inheritance without any hesitation. In the novel, everything was different. The lady remembers it. The place belonged only to Vincent Sr. Little by little, the content changes. The small changes started when Luna realized who she was. The girl confidently asks to ask something about Mr. Vincent. The plot of the novel is the story of the kind and beautiful Sarah, who became happy with her fiancé. To get the good ending, the lady had to endure numerous bullyings from the villainess. The story is written entirely from the perspective of the main character, which means everything was turned upside down, and what was offered to the reader was enough. Looking at Granada in real life, the girl realized that she was different from the image in the book. Now she can't think that the characters will be the same as in her story. Auntie's, as in the original story, found conflict with Persen, but he was not a terrible psychopath. The girl wants to know what was the reason for the bullying of Rodrian. The topic is not for outsiders, but the heroine thinks that something happened to the man. Lawyer replies that there was no reason, no matter what Persen was, that was no reason to mock him. For Vincent, his friend was simply a punching bag on which he let off steam. At that time, Trust almost died from overwork solving all the problems. Now Auntie's does not look like a villain. The man changed completely when he met Pales. It's hard to believe what he became because of the power of love. An hour later, the carriage arrived at the estate. They were delayed due to buying a gift, but it was worth it. Soon the father leaves to mine gold ore, and in the evening they have a farewell dinner. The lady comes in with a bouquet of flowers. The beauty hugged the man and sat down to tell him about the nice house she had found for herself. The place is famous for its roses in the spring. You will have to take a vacation to see the beauty. The Baron still cannot come to terms with the idea that he will have to leave. Not long ago, his daughter was little, and now she has grown up. The girl asks to take care of her health while she is not around so that they can live together for a long time. Lawyer suggests raising a toast to raise the mood of those gathered, even more a great idea. The man thanks for the prepared dinner. Winter is approaching, but he hopes that there will always be only warmth in their hearts. The wine in the glasses turned out to be terrible. It is a product of Plea, which could not be sold on the market. When it was time to leave, Luna gave Thane something that was to remain a secret from her father. Inside the bag are gold coins to buy everything they need. The family has been poor for a long time, so the man would not like to buy things himself. Besides, part of the money belongs to Thane. The employer is obliged to provide him with everything he needs for work. The lady almost forgot about something important. The heroine took the letter, which must be handed over to Auntie's. Thane thought there was a love note inside, so he promised to make it the best it could be. Lola had been working since early morning. It was time for her to rest a little. The girl said that there was nothing important in the letter. In the Antares Guild, the young man was going about his business until the guest he was expecting arrived. The Baron greeted the man they hadn't seen each other for a long time. Although the meeting would not be long, it was enough. The hero will still have a chance to meet Luna. He will soon go back to the capital. The blonde offers his country house on his family's property as a place to stay for a while. The Baron agreed to go and have a look. The place was repaired just in time for his arrival. The man thanks them. They received a lot of help from Vincent. It's just unthinkable. The young man said that he was going to the capital, and by a lucky chance, Luna moved into a new house right there. Brunette himself hasn't been there yet, but he heard that it's a wonderful place with roses that bloom all year round. You should definitely go there. The blonde asked again where the castle was, and it turned out to be somewhere near the Imperial Palace. The idea of Rosemary's pink mansion came to mind, but it was built in honor of her birthday, so it wouldn't be so easy to sell. The young man does not understand what his sister is planning. She always had the most varied ideas that one could come up with. The Baron decided to examine the house in more detail. While the hero was thinking about something of his own, they still had time. The gentleman was given a letter. Luna asked him to read the contents when the man was alone. You can't expect much from a lady. The secretary probably thought it was a love letter. The green-eyed man wanted to tease her, a little smiling. He notices that his girlfriend is very shy. The beautiful lady will not be kept waiting. Tin was asked to convey that she will be answered as soon as possible. The man can't wait to see the beauty's reaction when they meet. The beauty writes that they won the case, and since then, Persen has not appeared before her eyes. Blue-eyed asks to take care of her father. He is actually a sensitive person. The girl said that she should be more careful with him, otherwise she would find the dignity to take revenge without joking. When everything is over, the heroine wants to gradually get rid of the fake relationship. It is still too early, but you can hint at a breakup. In any case, aunties did not take their union seriously, so the heroine thought that 2 words would be enough. As always, the lady cuts without a knife. The young man understands everything. She made a wise choice. Rosemary suggests to Luna that they throw a party, something that is only done to celebrate moving into a new house. The new beginning will have to be celebrated lavishly so that everyone will notice the maiden understands that no one would come to her, so she is not sure. There are still bad rumors about the heroine, and she only has one friend, and that was Persen. Blue-eyed apologizes she didn't want to burden, and understood the emotions just by looking at her friend's face. Vincent suggested inviting her friends, to whom she would tell about Luna. The lady thanks for her concern. She is happy. The brunette expected that Rosemary's acquaintances were not the kind of people who would fall under the influence of rumors. But in the morning, Florrie and her friends were standing near the estate. The heroine couldn't help but react, but it was more negative than positive. It was time to settle into the house. Carlton, the senior butler, met the arrivals near the estate. The servants promised to sincerely take care of their new mistress. The mistress introduced Emma Lola and the lawyer. The girls introduced themselves and said that they would certainly get along with the new staff. The butler offers to inspect the room to the lady, but she refuses. She wants to choose quarters for her maids. Carlton leads the way down the hallway, explaining that all the servants live in a room at the end of the hallway on the first floor. Virgo is unwilling to ignore the rules of the house, but wants to provide them with rooms next to her chambers. Lola and Emma are precious members of the family. The young man understood and offered to follow him in the other direction. There was a strange atmosphere in the estate, for some reason a bad feeling. Before she had time to get used to her new possessions, the heroine, on Rosemary's advice, began preparing for the party. The lady worked hard for several days. Lola encouraged her by saying that everything would be fine. The girl joked that even a prince would have noticed her given her wonderful image. The maid was frightened, reminding her of Auntie. Lady Vincent arrived, although there was still a long time before the party. As soon as Luna saw her friend, she immediately relaxed a little, realizing that things would get better. Rosemary gave gloves and a bow, which seemed to be matching accessories with Vincent herself. The girl smiles, thinking she is happy that it didn't come down to matching dresses. That would have been a bit weird. Still, the heroine is really happy that she received a gift. Until recently, she couldn't even count on a friend. Lola helped me finish my hair. Choosing blue was a good idea. It matches the dress and the eyes. Vincent's friends arrived the first, introducing herself as Count Donovan's daughter, Elaine II as Karen. It turned out that the ladies had brought other acquaintances, some of whom wanted to be at the reception at the Rose estate. Everything started while a girl got out of the carriage. She knew that it was impolite to show up without an invitation, but she really wanted to be there. The girl invited Flora Flory, and of course Baron Curtis's daughter, named Sharon. Luna doesn't know what to say, judging by the expressions on their faces. They didn't know that Pels was organizing the party. As the hostess of the evening, the lady is obliged to do her job while everyone has gone into the hall. Flory asks what is going on. The beauty's friend throws her hand away because she doesn't want to listen to Luna's insults anymore. The heroine asks everyone into the house. She has been preparing for this reception for a long time. It is time to start with treats. Everyone sat down at the table. Where tea was all ready, Lola announced that a letter had arrived from the secretary. The woman was leaving for a moment to read it. Clutching her fan in her hands, the beauty decides to tell everyone that Palais is deceiving everyone. One of the ladies does not understand whether the lady is really such a terrible villain. Of course, no one could know. Flory remembers the day she was tormented in a boutique in the city. Curtis was there too. She should have agreed with her friend. Blue-eyed came back. She apologized for joking. It was noticeable that the atmosphere had changed. The moon was gone for only a few moments. Something happened. Flora fell silent. She decided to put off gossip. Vincent rudely asks why the lady suddenly doesn't want to continue. Now that the culprit has arrived, an apology can be obtained. The woman cannot even put two words together and pretends that she did not mean to say anything wrong. Pales did not know that her friend was so limited in her thoughts. Flory forgot that the hostess of the evening was the Baron's daughter. It is not enough for Virgo to slander an innocent person. She wants to ruin the atmosphere of the entire party. The heroine screams that she did nothing. She just told the truth. The brunette does not see the connection. She was the one who suffered when she was called a beggar. The conversation turned to flirting with Mr. Rodrian. Instead of empty words, the lady suggests showing evidence. The moon has no right to be subjected to stupid accusations. It makes no sense. The girl turns to Curtis, asking her to help, but she refuses. Flora has always been in charge. They simply trusted her. The brunette recalls how she had to suffer while getting from the boutique. Flory shouts in response that she still needs to be supported. The Duchess got tired of listening to the abuse and kicked them both out so that they would no longer interfere and spoil the atmosphere. It's a shame that it all ended this way. The party the lady worked so hard on went down the drain. The girl is about to finish the reception, but Vincent starts apologizing. She didn't want to ruin everything. Elaine also apologizes. She brought her friend thinking that nothing would happen. The lady wondered why there were so many different rumors about Pales now. She understands what led to the situation. Luna understands that this time she needs to explain herself properly. Maybe they will understand her. If they don't mind, the lady will take up time. Half an hour later, the brunette explained everything. She was happy that she told the truth, and they even believed hers. Until recently, everyone thought that the lady loved Rodrian Vincent, remembers that Luna is in a relationship with Aunties. It turns out she knew everything. The girls immediately pick up the topic of conversation. They have always liked this cute couple. Getting up from her seat, the lady is about to go get the maid with tea. She hides her anger, asking her friend to go with hers. The heroine tries to justify herself. It is obvious that the maiden decided to hide the truth, immediately starting with her trump cards. At first, Rosemary was guided by interest. She wanted to know what she was like her brother's beloved. Having met her, the beauty realized that Luna was charming, and she felt ashamed of her frivolity. Rosemary is sorry, but she just wanted to be friends. The brunette exhales in disappointment, on the other hand. It is her fault. Even if it was just one person, the lady did everything to make sure that at least someone saw her for who she was. Luna apologizes in return. She feels a little awkward saying it, but it seems like she secretly hoped that the real her would be seen. Vincent couldn't help but cry. She would definitely write about this day in her diary, because she was appreciated. Luna asks that, from now on, the friends be honest with each other. Telling everything, without concealment, is the only right step. The two arrived back 10 minutes later. The girl apologized for the delay, asking what the guests were talking about. The conversation turned to reading, which will happen in a month. The event is small, just right for all three of us to go, and Donovan decided to start talking about love affairs. Julia had been absent from parties lately. She must have entered into a relationship. It was Pale's turn, and she was asked to tell about her acquaintance with Aunties. Blue-Eyed is a little embarrassed to say because they started dating not so long ago. The tea party was over, but the friends still kept talking about relationships as if other topics didn't exist. Because of bad memories of her debut, Pele's was afraid to meet new people, so she became anxious again. Thanks to this new experience, the beauty realized that there was nothing to be afraid of. Not everyone in this world was hostile. Meeting Vincent was a good idea. She had someone who pushed her to gain courage. Before retiring to her chambers, the heroine asks Lola to contact the jeweler and arrange a meeting for the near future. Paulus is not going to the reception. She wants to give the Marquise a gift in honor of the fact that they are true friends. Sarah was sitting by the window, reading the news when guests came to visit her. Florrie was standing near the carriage. Tears were running down her cheeks, which meant something had happened to her.